Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lucas, and Mike. It is Tuesday, May 14th, and we have the details of Jared Goff's contract.
Oh, we do.
Which we were waiting for. That's the important stuff, and we're going to get into it. We also have Sean Murphy joining us in the second hour. Talk some NBA lottery from Detroit Pistons, unfortunately or fortunately. But we're going to spend a lot of today just talking about Jared Goff. Also, PFF, they came out with their most underrated players from each team, mentioned the Lions. So we're going to go through that, give our underrated player on the Lions. Can't wait to get into that. But before we get in, also, we're going to get into the schedule release, but we're just going to talk about it as if it is possible. Nothing's confirmed. I want to make that very clear. We're going to have some fun with it. But nothing's confirmed. I don't want people to see this and be like, "Oh, they this is official." It's not official.
If something becomes official, I will tweet it out from my Twitter. Like, I have some games already in my drafts ready to go. I just don't want to put, and I'm sure you like us talking about it, I don't want to put the same, like, something out there and then it's like there's these rumors, oh, the leak happened, and then the leak's wrong.
Yeah.
Like, there was a leak earlier this week that said we were playing Monday Night Football versus the 49ers or the Cowboys or whatever it was, and both of those teams already got announced. So we've got to be careful.
Yeah. Well,
careful.
Again, we're going to show it.
Klotzy, careful.
I'm not saying it's true.
Something, dude.
Thank you, brother.
We're not saying it's true. I do have a lot of respect for Lions royalty. I think he is,
yes,
for the most part, he is pretty reputable. But we can't always attach ourselves to everybody just in case they're wrong. Then we're kind of in that as well. But we're going to get into it. And I want to real quick give a shout out to Rut. He gifted 5 Crunch Time memberships. So that is big time. We appreciate your Rut. Giving back to the people. Ed O'Neill, thank you for the $5. There's no spoilers, Jeff. You will be tempted. You cannot go to the Thanksgiving game. That one is a must win. If we don't win that one, I fear, well, you'll see tomorrow. Well, I kind of got to look at it.
There is a rule for our show here. We are going to do live streams, and you guys know on our show, I'd never missed a live stream in my life outside of when we left that one place. Jeff, you are not allowed to go to a game. That's just, that's going to be like a rule this season, as I know you might want to see this football team play one day. You are not allowed to be in attendance. It sucks. You will be hanging out right next to me wherever we're going to find a bar downtown where we're going to do a live stream, and you're going to sit next to me the whole game. And I promise the people this, just like the NFC Championship game that I let him walk into that building,
bro.
That man, if he goes to leave, I will handcuff him. We're going to be on air. I will handcuff him to my hand, and he will not be going into Ford Field. That is a guarantee.
It sounds more and more like a cult the more you go down the Booner path.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say, I took so much heat from the people that I let Jeff into Ford Field on the NFC Championship game. And I also took heat that I wasn't at the watch parties in the stream.
You didn't take notes.
This year, nothing's getting messed up.
We got Steven David says, I'll never forgive Jeff for the NFC Championship.
I apologize. I take responsibility as well, Steven.
I'll never forget trying to watch the game, and Booner's literally at the edge of the row, screaming at the top of his lungs. By the way, everyone's looking at the entire
I really didn't care.
Like, what's going on? Jeff, we gotta go now. I'm like, dude, what happened? We gotta go now.
This is no camera.
By the way, something's wrong, like an emergency, probably.
Like, people are like, maybe you should go. Like, maybe it's like an emergency. I'm like, no, it's not. It's Booner being superstitious.
If you guys think that I do things as an act, promise you it's not.
No, it's real.
Cameras were off, and I was you got to go. People were wondering what was going on.
I want to see you do that to Lucas. I think Lucas would try and get him
probably leave. Klotzy would leave. Klotzy would be like, all right, yeah.
Booner, if I was sitting down and you were yelling at me like that, I would. There's no chance of getting up.
Yes, you would. Dude, we weren't at an actual game.
I'm sternly telling you to leave me alone and walk the other direction. That's what I would do.
Dude, we weren't actually at a game. We were at a watch party. This is a watch party.
Hey, listen, I know I get called a Bears fan for being a fan of Caleb Williams, but come on, Ed O'Neill. Bears might sweep us, to be honest. We're not going. We can't. No, I'm not. I would never say that. All right. So Ed O'Neill, don't get out of that mindset. They're not sweeping the Lions. They are going to be a formidable opponent, though. I do think that.
We'll get one on it.
Yeah, and the Bears, I don't even want to talk more into it because people call me a Bears fan, but yeah, it is what it is. All right, let's get into. We're gonna get right into it. The tweet that Lions Royalty has out, and you can check him out at Lions Royalty, and it's a rumored schedule. He's filling in the gaps for a lot of the games, and again, this isn't official, but he did get the schedule right last year. So if that means anything to you, he did get it right last year. But again, this is not official. The official schedule comes out tomorrow. So we'll break that down live and probably go game by game. Probably be most of the show until John gets on. But today, here's what we have so far. Okay. And this is, again, the rumored schedule release that Lions Royalty typically is pretty reliable. But here's what he has so far. So the first thing we'll get to and what stands out is who they open up the regular season with.
Beautiful opener.
Los Angeles Rams, Sunday Night Football. If this is how it goes, I'm going to be honest. I like the Rams and the Bucks. I think that's a pretty good one too. If we're talking week 1 and week 2, because I think they're both at home.
You like them as far as like favorable matchups? You're saying,
yeah,
or just like as far as seeing where they'd be at.
No, I think that's a pretty good.
Nervous.
Rams
make me nervous. They do. I mean,
really?
I think they will win. Like I'm not saying that, but it's the Rams. They're gonna have a chip on their shoulder from last season. They're gonna have a lot of young new players that they don't know how to scheme for. So I think again the Lions will win, but that's gonna be definitely a good game, especially on prime time. It'll be a good one.
Maybe it's because we faced them in the playoffs too. That we beat them both, but it wasn't easy. But I know they're capable. What do you think?
It's gonna be
first 2 games.
I mean, the Rams, like I said, I said it after the 49ers and who was the other team? The
Houston probably or Dallas.
Oh no, when the 49ers and Dallas both got announced, my first thought was, all right, let's get the Rams or the Texans. Let's put one of those 2 games. That's what I want to see. It happens to be the Rams, and I think Sunday Night Football. You guys already know. I just wanted the Lions in prime time. I know it sounds dumb, and people are like, Booner, why? I just have the Lions prime time week 1, set the tone in the whole season. Go out there and show like, hey, it's the Stafford thing. It's the whole Stafford to Detroit part 2. Stafford versus Goff versus LA part 2. Everything's part 2. So I think like the whole storyline is there. My whole point with the schedule in the week 1 was just, to me, it's I want the Lions to be in the limelight as much as possible. We have the Detroit versus everybody thing, and to kind of shake that off, let's get in primetime games. Let's play big matchups in primetime games. That's why week 1, I think versus LA, Matthew Stafford, Goff versus LA, Sunday Night Football sets everything up, man. You win that game, people start looking at you like you're already a Super Bowl contender. You beat the Rams and you win in primetime instantly to start the year. Boom, you're all right. We're there. Let Terrion Arnold go out there and get a pick 6 like Brian Branch did last year. Set the tone on the season. Oh, don't. This team's legit. And Stafford gets to come back. I'm one of the people. I might take hate for this. I really don't care. I'm one of the people who Stafford was one of the guys that got me into football growing up. That was kind of how I started into football. So like I hated him last year because it was the playoffs, and I boo him. Do whatever you have to do. To me, I think it's going to actually be a cool primetime game. It's all like you're going at his head. You're going to win that football game, but it's also going to actually be a time to where potentially, he does get that video and he gets that, maybe a round of applause for coming back to Detroit. Cause it probably could be any one of these seasons could be his last year. So I'm one of those fans to where I grew up a Stafford guy like that. I know we lost and all of that. That was just one of the guys I grew up watching. So I'll say, hey, give him his praise one last time and we'll move on from it and go win that football game.
So real quick, I see Todd says, are these games confirmed or speculation? They are speculation, but the source that put it out is pretty reliable. Last year, like I said, they got last year's schedule right. So we're going off of it as speculation, just to kind of for content purposes. It's fun. And I'm with you, Boone, about this kind of the Stafford point. I mean, even ETN here, and I want to find his comment because it is a great point here. Chiefs started 0-1 last year and won the Super Bowl. Don't panic if Stafford cooks, y'all.
Yep.
And I think it is a huge test, Lucas, for the secondary, man. I mean, talk about Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua right away.
I mean, they're going to have their handful. I know we talk about it all the time, but Kyron Williams and the run defense to see if they're going to be another elite unit because Kyron Williams is still an elite running back in this league. I'm still taking Jahmyr Gibbs. That'll be an exciting matchup.
You and Adam, that'll be a good one. Where you going?
Right away, too.
I hope so, but it's going to be interesting. I think when you look at the Rams, especially they're going to be a team that everyone expects to be making the playoffs as well. So like you said, is how the offense matchups, but I'm really excited to see how the offensive line, I think this is a game where they can just absolutely dominate, because you look at this defensive line, there's going to be Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, and just a whole lot of younger guys with inexperience. So I think this is a game that the Lions offensive line can just absolutely manhandle and start the season off with confidence, because then you go against Tampa, if this hypothetical is correct, and that front seven compared to LA is a completely different animal. So it'd be a good way to tune them up before they play Tampa.
By the way, too, if you go Rams week 1, Tampa week 2 at home, that week 3 matchup in my eyes most likely is going to be on the road, right? Some of the teams you play on the road. Well, if you think about it, some of the teams you play on the road, guys, because I'm looking at the schedule right now, like the full schedule release. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 or 6 weeks that are open. And I don't see the 49ers game on the road here. I don't see the Dallas game on the road here. And I don't see the Houston game on the road here. And there's 5 openings left. So that week 3 potentially could be one of those big time games, the Texans, Niners, Dallas. So you're starting the season off potentially Rams, Bucks, one of those Cowboys or 49ers, and then the Seahawks, who you haven't been able to beat in how long. So you could open up 4 straight, like, here we go, boys. We're right into this thing. 4 tough teams.
You don't think it'd be a divisional game? I feel like that would almost have to, just because the amount of games you got to get through.
Potentially. I see here, like it says, and I don't want to give up what we have before, but it says week 16 at Chicago, week 7 at Minnesota. I mean, maybe.
What about Packers?
Packers, it's not on there yet, but that would be another away game. So it's potentially the Packers too, which either way, if it is the Packers, that's a big time game too.
No, go on.
I would say if you look at the road games that are already on this schedule here, week 3 is going to be a big time road game, whoever you play, whether it's Packers or Rams or 49ers, Cowboys.
It feels like away to Green Bay. That's what that would
Donkey
be.
Kong just put it in there as well.
Yeah, that's how it feels, because you already named both Bears games. Packers, they want a divisional game, I would assume, in the first 4 weeks, and Packers make the most sense. And they need an away game, because the first
that's
3
a tough
of the 4
weeks.
Well, the first 3 of the 3 of the 4, assumingly, are at home, so it's going to be an away game. So I would assume it's Green Bay. That would be a pretty interesting 4 game. It's all home games, so you're going to get more of those away games probably later in the year. But I think nonetheless, to start off your season with 3 of the 4 at home with pretty 4 formidable opponents, that's pretty ideal. I mean, I like their chances. To be honest, guys, they'll be favored in every one of these games at home. The Green Bay one might be a pick 'em, might be like a pretty close line. But Rams, they'll be favored at home. Tampa, they'll be favored at home. And Seattle, they'll be favored at home. So they'll be favored in the first 3 of the 4 games.
If you were to put Green Bay there, I think the Lions would go 3-1 through that first 4 games. I could easily see that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
be happy with
2-2. Maybe 2-2, but that I'd have to feel like that'd be one of those things where just something went wrong, a team didn't show up. But if they're at home for 3 of those games, it's hard for me to see them losing that more than.
I think it's a 3-1 deal here. 3 home games, fellas.
I think at the worst, maybe you drop that Rams game. They're going to beat Tampa, beat Seattle, and then that Green Bay one will be a tough one. But at the worst, will be 2-2, which is not the end of the world. It
would be
3-1 would be great. Because again, like ETN said, it's not how you start; it's really how you finish. It's team like we saw the Eagles. Eagles were what 10-1. Look what happened. And no one cares.
I mean, the Lions 2 years ago, 1-6 and 9-8.
And they were one of the hottest teams in football. Now you can't start like that, but
it'll be nice though if they go through this stretch. If this is what it turned out to be, I feel like there can't be any fraud allegations. You know what I mean? It's just like, especially early on in the season, when people are like, "Oh, this is a 13-win team." Yeah, but it's a fraud, kind of like the Minnesota Vikings. Like I feel like, especially when you get down the middle and the back end of the season, if San Francisco, Houston, Philly's not here, and you got to play them, it's going to be chops. Like there's no way.
Wilson, the Bucks fan, we love Jeff Wilson. He's like, get ready for the Bucks to slap the Lions team. That'll be a good game. And Derek Barnes better be locked in, get another pick to end it.
You better not be on the field.
The Bucks. You know what? Actually, no. The Bucks, I'll lock it in now. That is a lock of a dub. We went 2-0 versus them last year and dominated them. Like, what are we talking about
3
here?
times.
What are we now? 3 times. It's a whole new year. It's a whole new year. And at
Rashad
home.
White ain't running loose.
I know.
Now, hey, who did we just snag from Tampa? Carlton Davis. So you got him on Mike.
Thank you.
Chris Godwin, you put Terry on Amik and him.
It's over.
I think they're not going to be
And
moving
Carlton
the ball on
Davis.
the ground.
You know what we didn't
Get
say?
his lick back. Get his lick back.
Maybe someone said this, and I just didn't think. I was zoned out. Look at the week 1 and week 2
Playoff games.
playoff rematches instantly.
Yep.
Instantly. You play the 2 teams you play. The only team you're not playing in the first couple weeks is the 49ers. Imagine if somehow the 49ers went week 3 and you literally just go your normal playoff stretch, played LA, Tampa, and 49ers. That would be nuts.
Well, you keep moving down the schedule. So, again, it's not all filled out, but we have some away games after Seattle, which I think Seattle, that's my point about, like, it's hard to beat a team. Like, they gotta beat Seattle. I mean, it's just.
You'd think.
You'd think Seattle's looking at this like Booner is for the Bucs, like, oh, we've beaten them we beat them all the time.
Whole new coaching staff.
True.
It's a whole new thing.
I think the Lions beat the Seahawks this year.
I would hope so, man.
Get
It
that
would
monkey
just
off
be.
their
It's
back.
like, I was literally gonna say it's like the monkey they can't get off their back. I mean, it was 3 years in a row last year. I thought it was impossible that they were gonna lose last year, and then they find a way.
Yeah.
But it was because of the secondary. They couldn't.
Yes.
Tyler Lockett was going crazy. DK Metcalf looked like a grown man out there amongst boys. So it was.
Will Disley.
Hopefully that all just changes. Will Disley.
Oh my gosh, that just like a nightmare. Could have not guarded tight end to save our lives.
Well, you go to
Unbelievable.
week 7 and 8.
Real
At
quick, week 5 and
Minnesota.
6, both away games too. So 3 straight away games. You're gonna have 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah. I mean, you have at Minnesota, which, even though we posted that clip of whoever that clown was trashing the Lions, I think they're sweeping the Vikings, man. So that's an away game. And then they have versus Tennessee. So Booner, you get to see the Will Levis, a little bit of that you get to see the Will Levis. I guess the Will Levis experiment. You get to see it this year against the Lions. So that'll be good. And
That'll
that's
be
at home.
interesting. That's at home, yeah. I will not be there.
Are the oldest wide receiver core in the league. It's not even close.
What?
They'll be in the
Titans?
playoffs.
Tennessee. Oh, DeAndre Hopkins, Kelvin Ridley, and who's the other one they got?
Not really that old.
No.
Kelvin Ridley's
28.
30. He was 29 last year. I'm almost positive.
Oh, you might be
I
right.
could be wrong. He's up there though. Like he's a lot older than people think he
He's
is.
29. He's going to
Oh,
turn 30 next year at the end of the year, December. He's 29 years old.
Well, he'll be 30 by the time this this probably happens. Wait.
No,
Jeff.
29, brother.
All right. But yeah, I'm not worried really about the Italian. I don't know, unless Will Levis continues
Tyler Boyd.
to a really good quarterback. And they
Yeah,
lost a lot.
I forgot they got Tyler Boyd too. Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm not too worried there. I mean, so far with the opponents we've seen, I like the Lions are going to be favored in every game so far, maybe except that road game. But hypothetically, it's not confirmed, but at Green Bay week 3 we talked about. But we have to see the other away games. But so far, the Lions, I think, in every game we've seen so far, will be favored. That's just how it goes.
5 games, 5 favored.
So you see here, week. Okay, we'll get into the nitty gritty now. Now we're getting into this. Okay, week 11. Rumored you're at home to face Jacksonville, the Jaguars, the Jags, Jaguars. What do you? I mean, I'm comfortable.
Yeah, do you remember the last time the Jags came into town?
Absolutely smoked them.
30-point dub. I was there. Trevor Lawrence James Houston almost killed him.
That secondary is going to get eaten alive. I think again, the Jacksonville, they're going to get their defensive line is they got pieces, but still, that secondary, man, they didn't do anything to address it.
Yep. The next week is interesting too.
That's what I was gonna say. You guys know how I feel about that game going into Indy. I think that's a loss. I think it's a loss, boys. It's a challenging game. I think that's that's gonna be a gritty team on the road. I think they're gonna be hard to beat at home. When you talk about week 12, I believe, in my opinion, they're gonna be a very good football team. So they're gonna be peaking around that time. I think finally finding their identity with Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen. RPOs are what I think this year, especially with mobile quarterbacks, obviously, are what are going to kill the Lions, especially on the edges, because you have Aiden Hutchinson who can put the pressure on it. But on the other side, you have Anthony Richardson and you're RPOing Marcus Davenport or a linebacker like Derek Barnes. They're going to take advantage of that. So that's a game where it's going to be interesting. I think it's a loss, but it'll be a good game.
I have something.
Jeff Olson.
How about this, Klotzy?
What's up, Boone?
Week 12 at Indianapolis versus the Colts.
Yep.
Joe Flacco's going to be playing quarterback, not Anthony Richardson. He's going to be hurt. We're going to go up against an old Joe Flacco and win that football game on the road. How about that, Klotzy?
I don't want to wish injury on Anthony Richardson.
I'm not wishing it. I'm just saying it's a fact. There's going to be a lot of look at last year. How many quarterbacks got hurt last year? Like 8 million.
It's true, but I think they ran Anthony Richardson way too much last year with no Jonathan Taylor, and it showed. They have so many wide receivers. They're 5 deep at wide receiver.
Give me a dub over the Colts versus Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco.
I just
I love Shane Steichen. It's hard. I love him. I think he's a great head coach. But it's like I'm torn, Lucas, because I love Shane Steichen, but I didn't like Anthony Richardson before the draft. So it's like, what do I do? You know, like I'm kind of in a.
You're forgetting about somebody though. Mo Alley Cox. Mo Alley Cox.
Dog. I'll take
Dog.
Thanksgiving. Gobble gobble.
He couldn't do it. No, I'm just actually Mo Alley Cox. He ain't bad. He ain't nobody. No one's sitting there game planning for Mo Alley Cox.
Oh,
no,
Latu. Yeah, Stuttgart. Hey, Latu's scary, man. How about he's gonna win the game for him?
Oh no, hold on.
That
you're gonna have to game plan for. Okay. Latu, I think at this point,
DeForest Buckner just die.
Well, the defensive line, yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
Oh, did Penei Sewell just disappear? Taylor Decker?
No, Booner, it's not my concern.
Yeah, they're gonna, but hey, strength on strength, baby. If they get neutralized, which typically happens, then what are you gonna do?
Penei Sewell
that's gonna be like a 21-18 type of game, just like an ugly game.
Yeah. And Jonathan Taylor will rush for a whopping 46 yards. That's going to be wild.
David Montgomery will have 2 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs 1.
Watch Anthony Richardson will probably lead their team in rushing that game. Probably.
That's
how it's going to go.
And then he won't be playing.
Yeah, they'll get knocked out of the game. Actually, I shouldn't say that's Sam Flannel. That's Sam Flannel. Everyone's getting knocked out of the game. That's what he does.
There's no reason to dislike Anthony Richardson. The man's in the AFC.
Yeah. No, and I honestly, I think he's winning me over, but no.
He's no Caleb Williams.
No, I didn't like him before the draft. He did impress me. I'm not gonna lie. He's a better pro immediately than I thought. Not gonna lie to you. I'll keep it honest. All right, moving on. Week 13, rumored Thanksgiving game at home against the Chicago Bears. So I typically go to Thanksgiving games.
You won't be there.
We'll see.
I'll talk to your dad. I'll talk to Papa Iafrate over there. Don't worry, we'll have a conversation.
It's me and my dad go. You know, we do it every year. I will admit the luck hasn't been there when I'm in attendance. I don't know if that's me or not. I cannot confirm nor deny. When I was there last year, they played Jordan Love, and he just absolutely he opened the play. He opened the game with just a
Who was that too?
Bro. Christian Watson. Just throw it up. He's down there somewhere playing. So I know everyone's free.
Dude, Jeff, I'm gonna be honest, dude. When was the last time the Lions won a Thanksgiving game?
I'll get that for you.
They lost to the Bills. Maybe the Bears they beat.
So they're 37-44.
2016.
Yeah, they're 37-44-2 in Thanksgiving games.
It's been 7. They're 0 in their last 7 in Thanksgiving, I believe, is the number.
Yeah, they were 500, and then they just completely shit the bed.
I kind of blame you. I hate doing that to my boys and my friends. If you've been at all of these games, that's a problem. Common denominator.
I have a problem. I would love
to win a Thanksgiving game.
Well, that game will be. I think that's a great way to. I think that's a great game on Thanksgiving, though. Yeah. So I do. I like that one. They followed up back-to-back divisional games. Thursday night football at home against Green Bay. I think that away game at the beginning of the year will be Green Bay. Or maybe it's away to Minnesota. It's going to be one of those teams.
Do you guys? So real quick with this, think about this real quick, because typically the Lions, you play that Thursday game, and it's not like a full bye week, but you essentially get like a massive time off to where, on Thursday, I remember last year, I believe they played on the following Sunday. So I think Dan said, hey, go home for the week and take it's essentially like a short bye week for them. instead of the full bye week. This year, if this is true here, you play on Thursday and then you have the first game of the following week. So, typically you get till the next Sunday, you're almost losing 4 days of rest that you usually would get if you're playing on that next Sunday. That's going to be the interesting part to me, because when you get into week 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, this back half of the season, you've already gone through your bye most likely. And, do you remember last year, I think there was a couple players that were beat up after Thanksgiving, and they had that extra time. It might have been Anzo actually have that extra time to recover, and a couple other guys did. Demon, I think. That's an interesting thing that if that does happen, they said, hey, we're just going to give them that first game.
Yeah, but then you look at it at O'Neal, but then we get 10 days off for Buffalo.
That's true, actually. That's true.
So,
how about that's why we're talking and breaking this down. Good points, boys.
The mighty Buffalo Bills, Booner.
Teamwork makes the dream work. This is what Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes preach. We work together. We learn together. We be great together. Thank you, Ed O'Neal.
Did you see their groundbreaking move they made today, Booner?
I did.
MVS?
They did. I did. Yeah.
Wide receiver core is about to set the league on fire.
That's a champion there. They brought a champion in the building.
Yeah, and if you keep going here, real quick, I want to give a shout out Hugh thank you for the $10, man. He says, Jeff is going to paint his nails on Thanksgiving to match Caleb. I don't know. No, I'm not. I can confirm to you, Hugh, I will not do that. I
might do mine Honolulu blue.
Okay, well, no, I'm not. I will not be participating. That is. See, you can do whatever you want to do, Boone. I
just do my Kool-Aid and my hutch stripe.
I see Eazy in here, Rip, Neil, and Stick. Yeah, if you guys missed that was
funny.
Yeah, Easy. I went full J. Cole. I was just like, hey, man, on the mic. I appreciate Eazy. He's a good guy. He's very talented. That's my brother.
I didn't.
That's my
Eazy,
brother.
Eazy knows I have a red button over here.
I don't want no problems, man. All right, we'll keep it going. Thursday Night Football against the Packers. You follow that up, you get 10 days off. Then you take on the Bills. That's a win. Easy.
I mean, it's the worst receiving core in the league, and if the Lions, you're talking about the secondary being a weakness potentially, you're sleeping good the night before that. I mean, Curtis Samuel, he's all right. Keon Coleman, he should be something, but after that, I mean, good God, they have
they'll be like
nothing.
What do you think, Lucas? 4-8 at this point? I mean,
week 14,
or what would that be? It'd be like 4-10.
They'll probably be. They'll be a 6-8 team. I'll give them that 6-8. They'll be fighting for the third spot in the AFC East, and maybe they'll be able to get a little AFC wild card run with some win and losses around the league. That's what position they'll be in. 6-8.
No, I agree. It's a good take. What do you think, Boone? Huh? What do you think? Josh Allen defender. What do you think?
No, I mean, Detroit Lions are going to beat them by 30. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, but we're more so specifically talking about the Bills right now. Like, what do you think?
The Bills are going to be just fine. I mean, we're not going to get into this argument again. They're going to be in. They're. What are we talking about here? It's the Bills.
Got to walk a thin line.
When you have Josh Allen, there's no thin line. When the Lions and the Bills go up against each other, it is all Detroit Lions. I'm not a Bills fan. Josh Allen's one of my favorite players in the league. I'm not a Bills fan though. Let's get that straight. It's not like me. I'm not sitting over here with Bills, Booner, like Jeff and the Bears. No, it is just Booner and the Lions and the Booner path. And then we can talk about because you're trying to. I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to say that I'm a Bills guy and you're not a Bears guy.
I am not. I'm not. Hey, did I ever fight for the Bears to win the NFC North? Nope, I did not.
No, I would never do that either. If the Bills were in this division, I would say the Lions are going to beat them by 1,000,000 games.
There you go. See, we're in locks. I get it. I get it.
No, that's a win. I think that's like one of what that game feels like to me, that Buffalo games. It feels like that Seattle game to where it's like every time we played the Bills the last few years, like Thanksgiving a couple years ago, it's just every single time. It's just like you can't get the job done versus them. I would love to just beat Buffalo. I'd love to beat Josh Allen. I'd love to be able to just end that whole thing there and move on because it's just like the Seahawks. Those are just some teams it's like the Cowboys too. There's a lot of games this year with teams that you've struggled to beat the last few years, and you can end those narratives and go to the top this year. Seahawks, Cowboys, Bills.
Well, I think that Buffalo game, this stretch, you get 3 home games. Obviously, it's a shortened week. At least they're both home games, I will say. I like that. Then you got Buffalo at home. You go away to Chicago. I think that game will be tough, Week 16, because
That's gonna be
just going to be a no. Go on.
Week 14 is gonna be like huge for the number 1 spot in the division, I think. And then that Chicago game, if let's say either team who's fighting for the 1 spot drops in Week 14, that Chicago game could play a huge factor too, because just the overall records. And then you got Minnesota, another divisional game. So Week 14 and on, I would be very surprised if Week 17 was not Dallas.
That was what I was going to say.
That's a good point.
That's I think
go ahead, Boone.
I was just going to say the same. I think you're on the road in Dallas. And that last week, that stretch, 2 Chicago, 2 Dallas, those 2 games are going to be some of the biggest games of the year.
I mean, even if you just look at Week 13, look how meaningful you got. NFC North, AFC, okay, but that's still a big game just to keep your momentum against Josh Allen. NFC North, potentially the Cowboys, and then NFC North. And the Cowboys, that's another team that could be fighting for a wild card spot in the NFC. So those are all huge time matchups and playoff type of matchups as well.
I mean, the first thing I thought of when I saw Buffalo is at least they're not on the road to Buffalo, especially in that weather. So they're at home. So that's great. At Chicago, that's where you're like, okay, now you get to go outside. Now we're getting into that weather, which not saying the Lions I do believe they can travel, but it's hard to play, man, especially when teams are comfortable in that weather. And I know Caleb's a rookie, so he's going to have to find that out the hard way. But Buffalo loves playing in that weather. So I'm glad it's at home. That's a good one.
Do you know what? From weeks 11 to 18, I'm kind of happy that we've got this. If this is the schedule, and even if Dallas falls in 17, I'm happy with this, because think about the top teams you're playing. We keep bringing them up: the 49ers, the Texans. Who else have we not said here? The Cowboys. Is there another team I'm missing on the road here?
They play Philly or my?
Texans. You said
no. Texans? I said the Texans. Okay. There's another team. But either way, those 3 teams from 11 to 18, dude. Yeah, you want to be playing your best football down the stretch, but if you can avoid injury, if you could sit there and gain confidence and win football games, if you get those games out early, beat the 49ers, beat the Texans, or even if you drop one of those games early enough, you're able to bounce back I would rather bounce back and get a win versus the Colts, the Bears, the Packers, the Bills, or the Vikings. Like, I would rather have that towards the end personally, because then that kind of builds confidence going into the season, instead of week 17, week 18, week 16, 15, having to just go through an absolute gauntlet of teams in Dallas, 49ers, Texans. Do you guys see what I'm saying with that? Like, I kind of like, if this is the schedule, I like how favorable 11 through 18 is, outside of maybe that 15 to 17 stretch there.
Well, I think it's important, especially heading into playoff times. I'd rather them not play all the good teams towards the end, but I think it's more valuable if you're heading into the playoffs and you're playing playoff teams rather than playing even just like 500 teams like we talk about, like the Chicagos and the Buffaloes. Like, those games are important, but I think going into the playoffs, it's so important not to be going up against cupcake teams, in my opinion, just so you don't get smacked in the mouth. In the mouth, whatever the fuck just happened there.
That's what I think. 15, 16, 17, Bills, Bears, because Bears, as much as we hate them, they're probably going to be pretty good. That offense is good. That's going to be a tough game down the road. And then
Swift won't be healthy though. Not for 16.
But like that that to me is like, that's a good team to go up against. And then if you have to go on the road with the Dallas Cowboys, that's a playoff team. So I think, to me, like, I understand what you're saying, Klotzy, but that's why I think 15, 16, 17 is like just good enough to where you're playing good teams that are probably going to be contending for the playoffs and in the playoffs, but you don't have to go up against the 49ers and just like.
That's what would your reaction be if week 17? Because if it's not Dallas, and we talked about it's probably not going to be Houston, I imagine that'd be earlier on. If you're week 17 and it's the Niners, how do you boys feel about that?
That's Ed O'Neill just put it in the chat. That's the 1 seed battle at that point.
Let me ask, would you rather the Lions win that game or lose that game?
Win.
You're playing for a 1 seed.
Because like if you're gonna play the 49ers in the playoffs, like a potential NFC championship game.
When you're in those positions, essentially what you're playing for is home field advantage when it comes to the NFC championship game. Because you're both probably going to be the 1-2 seed if things come out. And it's like, you have to win that game, because if you end up having the same record, we need the tiebreaker, and that goes head to head. You have to. There is no. Whenever you play the 49ers and whenever you play the Dallas Cowboys, those are must-win games because of tiebreakers.
Well, And you're thinking, I know you, Klotz. I know where you're
I'm just
going.
because I just think
No.
I'm not saying I want the 49ers to win. I'm just saying that's a hard team to beat twice.
I'll
Obviously,
never
I knew it. I knew it. I know you so well.
Is that not true?
No,
is that not true?
No, it is. But dude, you're playing for a home game in the NFC Championship
Booner,
game.
I'm with you. I just asked a question.
No,
and
I wasn't gonna go off. I was just.
I hate these questions.
It was funny because I knew you were going with that because we've talked about that before with certain teams. Like, yeah, it's hard to beat them twice. I look at it like this, Lucas. They beat us already. They beat the Lions in the postseason. So technically, it's 0-1. This will be 1-1.
Mm-hmm.
But I get why. I get it. A couple weeks apart. Maybe you hide your best plays. Maybe like a couple best plays you save for the playoffs. But if you still beat them with keeping some things in house, maybe that would be great.
Klotzy.
I knew that was my bro.
I asked one thing.
He's triggered.
I asked one thing.
What's that, Boone?
Just never ask me again if I would rather have the Lions win or lose a game.
Okay. Sure.
I threw my pen. I don't know where it's going.
Oh, Booner, I swear to God, dude. Yeah, that's funny.
Come on.
He said, don't you ever ask me if the Lions aren't automatically winning a football game. Right?
I'll be honest. I'm gonna have them losing some of these games. I have them going 13. I have them going 13-4. But the hypotheticals. This is the argument we got into last night. And you guys said, "Oh, Booner, stop!"
Man. That's
you guys said yesterday, "Oh, Booner, stop yelling, stop yelling." No, this is the hypothetical from last year with the playoffs, and in this year, it's no. You want the 1 seed. It's week 17. Whenever you play the 49ers and the Cowboys, those are two teams that could sit there and take a 1 seed from you that are going to be competing for the top 4 seeds. You want the tiebreaker. You need the tiebreaker because guess what? I'm not going to San Francisco next year in NFC. I want to have a game at Ford Field to go to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I want
Thanks,
to be at Ford Field, not at San Francisco. I don't. I'm with you.
So that's all. I love you guys. And shout out to chat too.
Like you just threatened us or something.
Shout out to chat too because they're all like we're winning week 17.
And then week 18 they sweep Minnesota.
Yeah. By the way, too, I have them going 13-4, Jeff. I'm gonna have to find 4 games on this schedule for them to lose.
I know so yeah. Well, damn, Booner, I'm disappointed in you.
Why? What do losses do?
Make you better.
Build adversity and make you better. You learn.
now he's okay with
on the
loss.
Booner path. On the Booner path, what we do is we build, we learn, we find ways to get better, and by the end of the season, we don't lose in the playoffs. All right, sorry.
Fair. You can't lose. No, you don't want to do that.
We just talked 40 minutes about the schedule. I didn't look at the time. I have no clue.
No, it's good. I think it's good conversation. I mean, it's fun. That's why I wanted to. Again, that is from Lions Royalty on his Twitter account. You can check him out at Lions Royalty. He's pretty reliable. Had the schedule right last year, so whether it ends up being true or not, it is fun to go through it because he is pretty damn good at what he does. Michael, come on in here. Welcome in, Michael Gentry. We'll get him. What's going on?
You just like talk to me like I'm your son. Like, come on in here.
Yeah, no, I just feel like you're waiting. Just come on in, dude. Come on. It's like
that was hilarious, though.
Boys are hanging out.
You had to slip in the "I love you." Like, what were they offended by something you said?
I don't know. I thought maybe they were. I don't know if Klotzy was. I don't know. I'm playing it safe over here. Yesterday, it felt like when I was getting mad about the one last year that everyone got a little offended about me yelling. So today I'd say I love you boys. Wanted to let that know.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I think it's fair.
Get a little emotional over here. That's part of winning.
Well, we're going to get into the Jared Goff, the contract details. That is where we're going now with it because Booner, you put Albert Breer put it out, then you put it out on your Twitter. We're going to check your Twitter out. You kind of broke down the numbers, which I think people. This is why I'm so excited to do this because this is the part of the discussing the contract that matters. When you actually dive into the details and you get to see where money's being allocated, how much money's in the first 2 years, 3 years, how much is in the last year, how much is the signing bonus. I think when the contract first came out, it's, people see the AAV and they do the math, 212 divided by 4. Oh, 53 million, whatever it is. Oh, and 53 million per year. We have to look at these type of details. Okay. So let's check it out. Okay. This is on Booner's Twitter, and he put Lions News. Here's an update on some of the details from Jared Goff's contract extension per Albert Breer. You have here, Boone, $73 million signing bonus, which is the highest in the NFL. Yeah, ever
of all time.
Most money guaranteed, or not guaranteed, most money in the signing bonus ever of all time. $125 million over the first 2 years, which, if you do the math, about $62.5 million. So that's the first 2 years, though. When you look at it for the first 3 years, that's $55 million a year. When you look at it, 165 divided by 3. And then you have a $57 million option year in 2028. That's the final year of his contract. So, when you really look at it, this is how I'm looking at it, Boone, and I'm going to let you kind of cook here, but just tell me if I'm off on this. I looked at it as basically the last year, there's a way out of it. It's kind of a 3-year 170. Well, 165.
Essentially, yeah.
I mean, the 4 years kind of if you have it, but the 3 years he will be here. There's no.
So I think it's so. I'm gonna break this down for you guys real quick because the signing bonus is the most interesting thing, Jeff. And what you said, like they put it towards the back end. You could tell with that $57 million on the last year. And I'm gonna break this down again. I want to let this known, guys. And if in the chat, I don't have the chat open right now because I have some notes up on this. If you guys, have an idea of a way this works, and Jeff and Gentry, if you guys want to mediate the chat to see if there's other people saying like this is how it works, but this is how I took it in the research that I did, because there's no details yet that are out completely outside of what we just got today. So the $73 million signing bonus, fellas, that gets spread out throughout the next 5 years, including this year. So you have $73 million. That doesn't just get put, like, just because you have a $73 signing bonus, you still take a cap hit of $73 million in the next 5 years. But what it does is it spreads it out over the next 5 years. So that signing bonus is going to be $14.6 million for the next 5 seasons for the Detroit Lions. So the way I took it essentially is this season, and I could be wrong on this again. I just want this is my research. This season, Jared Goff had a $32.3 million signing or cap hit. You add the 14.6 of the signing bonus onto that, and essentially, I think his cap hit or what it's going to be the money this year will be about $46 million. And then the next 3 years, because we know the final year, fellas, is $57 million. Now from 2025 to 2027, that 3-year span in the middle there, essentially, it's going to be a cap hit between about $140 million. Is basically what it is. Because you had, the take the $57 million off that 212, and then you take off that $14 million cap hit, and then as Ryan said there, this is where it gets really tricky, fellas. Because I sent you earlier today that essentially that this year all the way until 2027, if you did the math and if it all adds up perfectly, it's about $47 million a year cap hit outside of that final year. But this is where it gets tricky with Brad Holmes is you have void years. You have different – you can move it. Like I went back and looked at some other quarterback contracts of recent, like Joe Burrow's, and it goes years and years past. So there's other things that Brad Holmes can do with it and move things around and restructure it. But essentially what he did is they said, hey, we're going to give you this for the next 4 years. That 5th-year opt-out is going to be – essentially it's at the back end. $57 million is that opt-out for that final year, which is a massive, that makes it a lot more. And then when you give that much of a signing bonus, essentially, a lot of people are like, oh, you pay that much of signing bonus, it doesn't matter. No, it still matters, but it helps you allocate that over more years and make it less, the cap hit for each year a little bit less. And then you can kind of start moving the numbers around there outside of that. So I think it's a great what Brad Holmes did. I hope I explained that correctly and I broke that down for the signing bonus to you fellas. I hope you guys kind of understood that, and the chat kind of helped the chat out a little bit. But that was just essentially how I took it to where they moved that to the back end.
Yeah, that's a good way to explain it. Again, there's a lot that goes into this. So it's a.
I don't know if did I explain that right, because I know like
yeah
I sent you guys that earlier to where it's basically 46.8 for the next 4 years and then 57 on the final. But what you have to take into account is Brad's going to be able to move things around and put voided years and different things to where I think Brad Holmes killed this contract. You see $53 million right away and you're like, oh no. But when you break it down, it's going to be less than $50 million per year for at least the next 4 years. He's going to be making, the cap hit's going to be like 46, 47, 48 for the next 4 years, or even less, especially this year. It could even be way less because of the signing bonus and everything that you did with it to where you could push stuff to the end. So it's interesting.
What do you think when you first look at it, Mike, now that you got the numbers in front of you?
I mean, like Booner said, I'm sure Brad has a plan down the line as far as moving things around to make that contract more favorable in a couple of years. But I mean, I like the option at the end of it. I mean, I can't really say anything about it because Jared Goff has earned every dollar of this. There could be little ticky-tacky things that we nitpick about it. But at the end of the day, Brad Holmes got a deal, and he's going to be comfortable with the deal and what's going to come after that and down the line and what he's going to do with it. So, I mean, it's a lot of money, and the numbers look scary at first for those first 3 years. But once you get to that last one, you do have an option. And with the way Brad has been drafting and how he's worked contracts, I trust the man. So it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, and then that's I keep going back to the quote Brad had when he had the interview with 97.1, how he even talked about it in Rich Eisen. Again, he reiterated it on how the future is what Dan and Brad they always think about. They think about, how can they sustain this window? How can they stay at the level they're at? And I know it's hard to do that. The NFL is not structured that way, but again, Brad's going to do everything in his power to be able to do it. So with that being said, if he signs a contract like this, he has to take into consideration, how do I maneuver some of this money, and regardless how accurate your description was, Booner, anyone's interpretation of it is, you just understand that, like, hey, there's always ways around certain things. Like Brad will have there's always going to be a way to restructure it, turn more money into a signing bonus. It's just, again, we're not capologists like Jeff said, but we will have, he says, y'all should reach out to capologist Josh, Quapo?
Good idea. Guapo.
With A to Z Sports, which I have heard of now.
We could
He's
do
a great
that.
guest and is great with all the cap details. That's what we're
and as well. It's interesting too, because Brad, they did ask Brad as well, like, hey, how do you go about this? Knowing that other wide receivers, especially with Amon-Ra, other wide receivers, other quarterbacks, they're going to end up getting a deal and getting and Brad came out and said, yeah, we take very highly into consideration that there's all these quarterbacks and all these wide receivers who are going to be getting deals very, very soon. And we know on our end, we want to get the deal done as quick as possible. So we're able to do that and we can beat the market. And like, he took that into account. And these guys, like Brad is smart. He knows what he's doing. And Tom Pelissero came out as well on the show today and said, there's going to be quarterbacks that are signing $60 million a year. That's coming up very soon. So you just got Jared Goff at 53 essentially a year, maybe even less. You got to steal, because when that 50, say you do want to opt in that fourth or fifth year, and it's a $57 million cap hit. Guess what? By the time that in 4 or 5 years when that comes around, a $57 million cap hit isn't going to look crazy. And if you're really going to opt into that, guess what that means? That means Jared Goff's probably won you a Super Bowl and you're probably still winning games. And guess what you're going to do? You're probably going to extend him again for a couple more years, and you're going to be able to move that 57 back again to the end and move it around a little bit. So Brad, very strategic, very smart. The way I liked seeing that 57 at the end there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's I even that video we posted on our Twitter, like of NFC North content creators like freaking out, like how much money is tied up into 3 players, and they spend stupid money and all this stuff. Like at the end of the day, you got to pay guys that are great players.
Yep.
And that's going to come at the risk of losing some players. And I saw this as well. Jonathan said, does this mean McNeil won't be signed? He will be a cap casualty. It just depends. If I'm
franchise tag.
Yeah, but that's what's tough, because when you franchise tag someone, it's fully guaranteed money too. So, and whatever, I don't know what defensive tackle is. I don't know what that number is, to be honest.
It's so hard to tell with our defensive line right now. It's so
when you franchise tag someone, it's fully guaranteed. So it's the whole entire check is guaranteed. It's on your cap.
This is a good question. Would you rather lose Goff than Alim? I'd rather, if I'm being honest trust circle here real quick, I'd rather lose Alim than Goff.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 times out of 10
not
times.
even to me. That's not even really worth like a discussion. Like that's not. I like Alim. I do. I really do like Alim, but
our boy Steven said 23 mil for the
that's
tackle
tough.
franchise tag. So that's
tough. That's tough. It's going to be tough to navigate that because did you guys see Antoine Winfield get his contract?
Massive.
Yeah.
You think Brian Branch ain't looking at that going, mm-hmm.
Yep. Hutch is going to get paid next year. I believe next year he's due for an extension. Brian Branch in a year or two, extension. So there's going to be guys. I would rather walk away from Alim McNeil and hope that you can draft someone or bring another guy in and keep DJ Reader's here for 2 years. Like I would rather do that and pay Hutch and pay Brian Branch.
Oh, 100%.
And unless Alim McNeil takes, again, I hate throwing this word around because it's unrealistic for really all players that are getting their first contract, but there's no hometown discount. Like I don't see Alim getting his first contract in the NFL and being like, oh, I'll take a discount. I don't see that, nor should he. I think Alim should go out this year, play his best ball, and he's going to command north of $20 million, and you're not going to be able to afford him. That's just how it is. And to be honest, I'm comfortable with losing Alim McNeil. Just given how, again, I want to keep Laporta in the next couple of years. I know it's down the line, but you got to think 2-3 years away. I want to keep Brian Branch. I want to keep Aiden Hutchinson, $30 million for him.
Arnold in 3 years.
Yeah, like you got to think down the line. And I think, when you talk about replacing players, we'll see. Unless Alim comes out and gets 14 sacks, 12 sacks. I'm not going to say like figure it out. You got to resign Alim. I think he might be the odd one out. Unfortunately, good player, but he's gonna command a lot of money. It's gonna be tough, man. It's just, and I know Freddie says I'm not walking from Alim. Trust me, I don't want to do that either. But you got to have these conversations. Like, so what are you gonna do?
You'll know by the end of this year.
You're gonna walk from him. You're gonna have to walk from someone else. Just got to think.
It's gonna come. Yeah, you can't
who's it gonna be? You're losing.
I wish you could just afford everybody, and there's no cap. But unfortunately, it's just.
That's why it's important for Brad Holmes to keep being Brad Holmes in the draft, because now you're starting to get into, like, you saw him the first 3 years draft really well. Now it's getting into kind of crunch time to where, no pun intended. Shout out the boys. Good one there. But no, it gets into that time to where now you're paying guys, and before, when you're just kind of relying and you're trying to build up talent and you're trying to build the team, and you're like, oh, we can miss on a couple. You really don't have the time to miss on big picks, because you're paying all these guys. You're gonna have to walk away, and someone's gonna have to replace these guys and step in. And so you're gonna have to hit on some of these players in the draft, and that's why it gets more important. Like a Mekhi Wingo, I hope he hits this year. Him and Broderick, because those are two guys you drafted. Yeah. And if you don't want to pay Alim, Mekhi Wingo and Broderick Martin, your last two defensive tackle draft picks, Josh Pascal, like, these guys have to start hitting, because you're not going to be able to sit there and pay Alim and Hutch and Branch and Amon-Ra and Jared Goff and Penei Sewell and, the list goes Gibbs, and if you want it, we're not going to get into that, but guys, like that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and that's the that's the trade-off. It's not like we're sitting here saying, get rid of Alim. It's just you're having an honest conversation about, like, hey, you're going to have to eventually, you just can't afford to pay everybody top dollar money. But you also can't be like, keep Alim. He's going to go wild. He's going to go out and have a breakout year. It's like those two things. If he has a breakout year, it's actually going to be harder to keep him. So it doesn't do you any favors if he goes out there and has a career year,
I was going to say this. It's not that we're not high on Alim, because we are high on Alim. We think he's going to have a great year, and that's why he's going to be done with the team, because we can't afford to pay him. We're not shitting on him like he's bad. Because
no, if anything, it's a compliment. He's going to get top dollar. He's going to get paid. He's going to get paid. I hope the Lions can keep him. But also, I hope they can still invest money in the secondary eventually, because that's another thing you got to take in consideration. I see this comment here. Trisha Miller says it's Decker and Ragnow's last year. We will be able to afford Alim. And that's the other thing. Are you extending Taylor Decker? No. You want Gio Manu to take over? There you go. Rookie deal.
That's where the drafting, again, it's the same point. That's where drafting matters. If say you want to keep Alim, is there another position that's getting paid 20 something million? Because Alim's going to cost you 17 to 20 million. So you're going to have to find somewhere on the roster to move that 17, 20 million. and make that move. That's just what it comes down to. Again, it's the same point. If Alim goes out there and gets 9+ sacks this year, he's going to ask for one of the highest contracts at his position. It's the same point as before. It's if Alim signs, whether it's another D tackle or another defensive player you want to move on from or an offensive player, you're going to have to move on from someone. It's going to have to be someone.
Well, boys, because I was peeping the conversation, the Lions, how much cap do they have left right now? They have around $23 million.
About 23, yeah.
So if you're talking, if that's what Alim would take to be franchise tag, now obviously the cap's going to be a different situation next year. But would you, because the franchise tag is just strictly 1 year, it's all guaranteed money, but after that, you're off the books. So, I mean, I'm not saying, you need to re-sign Alim or franchise tag Alim for the $23 million, but I don't think it's that bad of an idea.
No, I don't think it's a bad idea. If you want to, if you know, like, hey, we're maybe we can franchise tag them and work out a deal, or maybe we're like, hey, we can't afford them, but we're just going to franchise tag them. Like, that's fine. I
just say franchise tag them and draft like Chris Jenkins. I mean, Kenneth Grant's coming up out next year.
Kenneth Grant.
You bring me Kenneth Grant, I'll be a happy man.
You would think though that if they were thinking about that, you like Brad has to be thinking about the Alim contract, right? They probably talked.
Iffy's another one.
Yeah, but the thing is with like Alim, they probably talked about an extension with his agent this year so far because he's due now. Like he's going into his last year. So you would think if that was a conversation about the franchise tag and this and that you would have sat there and drafted a D tackle even earlier this year, or you would have looked at that. But again, he doesn't draft for needs. He drafts for best players. So
I bet Brad is always like 2 steps ahead of where we even think he is. Like we think he's always 2 steps ahead, but he's probably 2 steps ahead of that at all times. Mm-hmm. Like he's thinking about the contracts in 2027 right now, I bet.
For sure.
That's what he's game planning for.
Yeah. And I see some people talking about the Alim McNeil breakout thing. What I mean by breakout is, yes, he broke out last year. I'm talking about getting to like potentially double-digit sacks. That to me would be like kind of like what Matabuke did. Matabuke had some pretty good seasons, and then he just took off, had basically almost a sack a game or half a sack, and got double-digit sacks. That's what I would call like, hey, he's arrived. Like in terms of like this dude will get paid. Like I think Matabuke was the highest paid defensive tackle. I think he was.
I think he's not yet. Well, Chris Jones might have offset it though, but you could be
not sure. But you're in that class, like he's Alim McNeil's already a really good player. I'm not trying to be like Alim hasn't broken out. That wasn't my point. But if he gets 10 sacks, boy,
I mean, yeah. So for him not to get better, like if he were to not take a jump in production next to DJ Reader, next to Jack Campbell in year 2 with a better secondary behind him, I would be shocked. And it would be probably because Josh Pascal is making some noise. Like it'd have to be because of that or injury. Knock on wood that it doesn't happen, but it's like set up to have success for Alim McNeil in 2024.
Am I crazy? I'm starting to fall a little bit for this Josh Pascal stuff again. Am I in a bad spot here? I'm starting to fall for it. It's just I'm starting to see people tweet out. They're starting to put some highlights of him. I think it was yesterday of him in the Kansas City game, just absolutely bodying some dudes and the getting to Patrick Mahomes. I'm just starting
I'll let Jeff speak on it more, but you guys know how critical I am of the interior of this defensive line for the Detroit Lions and on the edge as well. And he's in both of those rooms. But Josh Pascal is one guy that I have never given Jeff flack for, and I still won't. I think Pascal has a lot of upside. But Jeff, I know this is your guy.
I'm interested in it.
Like you should stand on this hill, Jeff. Stand on the hill.
Thank you.
That is Jeff's guy. So
what I like about Pascal is what I've learned is I think his true position is on the inside. I think he's an interior defensive lineman. I think that's where he should play and will continue to play. I know his versatility. Like I think he's a true interior defensive lineman. And I think he's solid in all areas. I would hope it's kind of the thing we always talk about with certain players where, he's good in different areas. I want him to be great and eventually get to that level of great in an area. And he just hasn't done that. He's a 2nd-round pick. Liked him coming out of Kentucky. I still have hope he can have what many would call a breakout year. I mean, he have 2 sacks last season? Like he's got plenty of room to grow. I really do hope. For the sake of me being right, but also with just him breaking out for the Detroit Lions, because they could use another guy, man. So
And
hold on, hope for Josh Pascal.
do you know what?
Real quick, Boone, just because a quick point. I think if there's one player that Terrell Williams will impact the most is Josh Pascal.
I agree.
Guess what, too, fellas? Year 3. Year 3. That's the jump you see in the NFL. The Lions, like that's a job. This is a year to where Josh Pascal, he's been in this defense with AG 2 years now. Terrell Williams comes in, one of the best in the league at it. Let this man go out there. It's not, you know what it is too, and I've seen this a couple times. It's not that he doesn't have the measurements and the skill or anything to do it. It's just he hasn't done it. And I think you need to we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think you need a guy like Terrell Williams. You need someone in there, and then put him next to a DJ Reader. You need to have him in the right position to do it because he has all the intangibles and all the measurables. He has it. Now it's like just do it, dude. Do it. You have what it takes. And I think it's just about getting someone in the room to help him doing that. And year 3, he's a vet now. I think when you hit year 3 in the NFL, guess what? I put the Booner tag on you. You're a veteran. Now it's time. Make a player
tag on you.
Make a player get out of the league. That's what it comes down to. Make a player get out of the league at year 3. And that's what it is for him. There's a couple guys like that on this Lions team where, hey, it's either you make a play for us this year or go bye-bye. That's what it was for me last year with the Quarter brothers. That's what it was for Charles Harris.
Commish.
Well, the commish, I give commish. You know what? I give commish the pass because he 2 years ago, when he was a role player, he was elite, an elite role player. Elite. Last year, he got put into such a bad position, which how bad Charles Harris was, gets pushed to the side. Now the commish is sitting there and they're like, hey, buddy, we need you to be our we need you to give us everything you have. He got put in a position where it was like he's taking snaps like Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. That's not his game. That's like giving Killian Hayes 40 shots a night.
Booner, don't worry. Marcus Davenport is here.
No, I was about to say.
But there's a rotation now.
We got Matthew Betts.
Matthew,
yeah, you're right.
Matthew Betts. Don't sleep, right, Booner?
It's a rotation. It's a rotation.
God, Matthew Betts.
You didn't. There was no rotation last year.
Can I get clarification though? What is a Booner tag? I don't think we can't just really.
It means a couple different things. The Booner tag. I'm putting a stamp on you. We're keeping our eye on you. It's time to perform, or you get out.
What? Okay. Well, how do you? What's the process of getting the Booner tag? What is that?
It's 3 years.
It's like getting served.
Shows up on your front door.
Situation.
like Seth Rogen and Pineapple Express.
It's a situational thing.
So, is J-Mo on this Booner tag watch?
Yeah, J-Mo, yes. Are you going to be a wide receiver number 2? Booner tag. You better be a wide receiver number 2.
No, that's a Gentry tag. You can't tag my player.
No, I know. I tag. I tag.
Don't do that.
No, boys. I tag anyone's player.
He doesn't. He is breaking out.
On the Booner path.
Question marks.
On the Booner path, it's hey, these are guys. Hey, we need you to step up, brother. We need you to step up. That's what it is. That's what the Booner tag is. Josh Pascal is part of that.
It's like turf. It's like Gentry's turf, and then you got Booner. Like you can't enter Gentry's or
there's Gentry's a part of the Booner path. There could be a little
little riff.
You know what I mean?
Little riff going on. Gentry, Booner. It's all right.
Gentry, you're the accounting executive. Jeff's the janitor.
All right, that sounds like an official position, so I will take it.
I keep those floors clean.
I'm the marketing advisor.
All right.
I don't know.
I do need to get a list of the rankings here. I still have a couple official visits to. Eazy has an official visit coming up. Spenny has an official visit coming up. So there's a couple.
Well, what about Sean Murphy? Where does he rank on the?
Sean can have an official visit if he wants to join the Booner Path.
Well, you know what? Let's bring on Sean Murphy.
Get that
welcome to the show, Sean.
Yo, Sean.
You can check Sean out, hosted from Half Court. Sean, how you doing?
Boys, I just got tag team tagged by Gentry and Booner, and I feel icky, but it's good to be here. It's good to see you boys. Thank you for having me. It's always good to be talking basketball.
Dude, Sean, I'll ask you, what'd you think of the Goff extension, man?
I mean, honestly, I know people are, I think the stigma around Jared Goff, is always going to be there just because Sean McVay quit on him. And I think people view Sean McVay as the second coming of Jesus Christ in football, even though he hasn't won the Super Bowl every single year, breaking news. But anyway, he can be wrong, it turns out. But no, in all seriousness, I honestly think, it's a huge win for the Lions. It's a huge win for the city. I think Jared Goff is one of the best stories in sports over the last few years. It's like the story of a guy being straight up told you're not good enough, being, shipped away, especially to a franchise who historically, has been going through it for all intensive terms, is getting thrown into a new regime, was called a transition quarterback, and now he's won over the hearts of an entire city and, has taken on the identity of Detroit, especially when, a lot of fans in Detroit did not believe in him for the longest time. And now we're in a situation where he's leading the charge on this new regime, on the, just on this new run. And, it's the most exciting time to be a Lions fan in my lifetime and in a lot of people's lifetimes. And a lot of that's because of him. So he earned it off of that alone. But on top of that, if you just look at like the statistics and remove the name and the stigmas that come with Jared Goff, he's been playing really good football. And so his production, as well as where he's taken this program, justifies the contract. Plus, like you guys have said, like a lot of people have said, wait until the details come out. And as you can see by how it's structured, it seems to me like it was very strategic by the Lions to both give themselves an out if need be, but also to continue to be competitive going forward, which is the most important thing when you're doing this kind of contract. So all in all, it's a win for the Lions. It's a win for Jared Goff. That's all you can ask for.
No question. Good shit, Sean.
All right, Sean. We know the Pistons had some bad luck Sunday. My friend Jeff, your friend Jeff, was crying all day.
My buddy, old pal. Yep.
What are the Pistons going to do with this 5th overall pick? Is there a player you like? Do you like them trading the pick? I mean, we've seen the Brandon Ingram thing. We kind of talked about that for a little bit. I kind of like the fit there. What are we going to do? How are we going to get Jeff better?
And who's leading this damn thing, Sean? Who's leading it? Jesus.
Yeah, no, that second part is a great question. According, I want to touch on that real quick because that will kind of lead into the second part. According to Shams and James Edwards III, the Pistons are planning to potentially make a run at Tim Connolly, who's currently the president of the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's going to ultimately opt out to be a free agent after this season because of the ownership things that are going on with the Wolves. And so there's a, realistic chance that they're, going to put a big offer in front of him. That doesn't mean he's actually going to come to Detroit. There are other candidates as well. But as far as the lottery luck, what they're going to do with the draft, I honestly think that Detroit's motivation is try and trade the pick if they can for a proven player. And I think they're going to try and do that wherever the pick landed. I just think there was far more of an incentive to do so if it was higher in the lottery. So falling to 5 makes that a little bit more difficult. I've been doing a lot of research on this draft, and a lot of people were honestly saying that the nicest assessment I've heard of this year's draft is the number 1 pick this year is like if you were to take out the top 3 stars of any normal draft and then just start at 4. So that's essentially like where people think this draft is. At worst, I've heard people say it's like having the 10th pick. I don't think it's that bad, but but if that shows you like the Pistons essentially are getting a player who's equivalent to like the 12th to 14th pick in last year's draft at 5. So that's where we're at. So I think if they can, I think they'd go and, try and get someone established, but assuming that they're not really able to find much value for that pick, I think they'd want to get someone that has a lot of attributes that they don't currently have. Someone who has length, someone who can defend, someone who can shoot, whether it's, the rim protector out of UConn or there's a wing out of G League Ignite who can, who has a potential as a 3-point shooter and a defender, but they're all projects. And I think for the Pistons, that's the kind of the last thing they want right now. So it's kind of an interesting dilemma to be in, but them falling to 5 this year was just the salt in the wound that already was both this season, but let's be honest, losing last year's lottery too, which was the ultimate lottery that stung.
Sean, want to ask you this. This was a conversation we had on the show yesterday, and I probably shouldn't be speaking on it right now because I should be sitting this one out, but the conversation here with the stars here with the Pistons when it comes to Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Asar, and Jalen Duren. sore. I want to hear where you're at with this, because we had the conversation with Adam yesterday. Again, this is something I have to sit out, so I shouldn't be asking this question. But where you at with this, like the whole trade Cade situation or trade Jaden? Like, to me, and I personally think Cade's an opportunity. He's good enough to be a 1-2 on a team if you put the right pieces around him. So for me, it feels like that's an untouchable guy. Are you in the same sense as that? Or are you saying, hey, let's just move these other 3 guys, and if we can get other pieces and newer pieces and more, veteran pieces, where are you at with that? Because that's kind of where my mind goes instantly, just looking at the team right now. There's Cade and then there's the other guys, and let's make some moves with these other guys.
Well, to answer your question, Booner, the Pistons getting Cade Cunningham #1 overall was the first time they had the #1 overall pick in 51 years. On top of that, Cade Cunningham is the best prospect that the Pistons have had since Grant Hill in the late 90s. It's not a fact that it's not a guarantee that you're going to get that type of player in the draft, even if you get the #1 overall pick again. So I think to say just trade him, start over, you'll be better off. Although I understand the merit of getting more assets and actually being able to start with, more on the table than you actually did to begin with. I understand the merit of that argument. I just say when you have that type of talent, especially at a guy who's still young, who still really hasn't had to put much mileage on his legs, who's shown as much potential as he has, you haven't really put a real roster around him yet, and he's looked as good as he has. Imagine if you actually give him a couple shooters and a couple wing defenders. So that's my thing. I understand, people wanting to, blow it up, especially after, 2 franchise worst seasons. I cannot, I cannot, tell people that they're wrong for feeling that way. But I would say that there is tangible talent to build around in-house. And that's really the first step. And they already at least have that. They need to put a real roster around them. So that would be my rebuttal.
And you know what, Sean? I think you put that very well. I think for me, the whole argument, I think you nailed it. It's tough because Adam's point, and again, you already said you can understand the thought process, even though we disagree with it. Like, hey, we got nothing here. Trade the best asset you have. Let's start this thing over. But I'm with you, man. This roster building around Cade has been disappointing. And when you look at the 5th pick, shooting is something that they just need. I mean, Fontecchio, when he joined and you saw the impact he had on the rest of the roster,
my gosh,
it was impressive. I mean, because he's a 40% 3-point shooter. He's a wing. When you look at the 5th pick, I'll put you on the spot here because I put a poll out today for Pistons fans, and it was Dalton Connect, who a lot of people like, the wing from Tennessee, a little older, but still absolutely shoot the hell out of the ball. And sometimes it's people fall in love with the sexy pick, with the guy with higher upside. But when you get a guy who, and I think this is where the league's trending in some ways, past the, obviously the top 3 picks, you're just taking guys that can contribute, especially when you have guys you already kind of like. What do you think of the Dalton Connect idea of getting a wing because that's kind of been a guy I've been falling more in love with, like just get Cade some shooting here, or like a Berzelis pick where, by the way, agent might have ties to the Pistons organization. I won't comment on that, but a 6'10", higher upside, maybe the shot's not there. What way are you leaning, Sean? I'll go to you on that.
Yeah, I'll just say I think the Taleb stuff is blown way out of proportion. I think Mike Valeni had one segment that blew up, and now like people took an inch, and they took a mile with it. I don't get, that's my whole spin. That's a whole other argument for a whole different day. But what I would say to you, I think Dalton Connect makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, I could also see it being a situation where, the player out of G League Ignite, and again, I apologize for not being super
Ron Holland. Are you talking about Ron Holland or Matas?
Matas. I'm sorry for not being the greatest with names. I'm going to level with y'all. Have not had to put much energy into this draft class.
It doesn't hit the same anymore.
It's just not. It's just not worth the energy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm sorry. It's just not. From every person I've respected, they're like, yeah, I'm just sitting this one out too. I'm like, oh, okay, so that's just where we're at. But in all seriousness, like I think you kind of hit it on the head. I think Dalton Connect does make, like a lot of sense, but, at the same time, I think, having some more length and versatility in that sense would help too. But, you just need players who can shoot, guys who, can come in if you are going to draft someone who could play right now. Like if the Pistons can get someone in the first round of this year's draft that can at least come off the bench and give you 15 minutes a night, that's a win. Like that's honestly where I think the expectations should be for this draft. Because that's just what this draft is.
Yeah, I'm with you.
This is the Anthony Bennett draft. Now, granted, that class also had Giannis at 13 and Rudy Gobert, later in the first round.
Yep.
But those were projects. Those were guys that, were total unknown commodities. I think we could still see great players out of this draft. I think you'll still see good players, like this year. But just the reality of it is there's no Wemby. There's no Paolo. There's no Chet. There's not even a Jabari Smith in this draft class. So that's just the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to follow up real quick, just off this Cade stuff, Sean. And in my head, we're going into, what is it? It's going to be year 3 for Cade, or no, year 4 now. You're kind of going into that spot where you can take a jump. And when I was looking stuff up last night through this conversation, I looked at guys like SGA, Jalen Brunson, Devin Booker. I have a list here: Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Maxey, Anthony Edwards. I could just keep going and going and going on some of these players and kind of going from being just a 15 to 17 points per game year type of guys all the way up to that 24, 25 and making those jumps. And to me, it feels like it's more so putting the right players around. Do you see Cade making that jump this year? If they end up this summer kind of making these moves, and I know it's kind of a redundant question with what we've been talking about, but more so just on the side of Cade, like, do you truly believe he can make that jump and get the right pieces around him? Say they bring Brandon Ingram in and say they go out there and get the shooters. Can you see them kind of making a little bit of a jump instead of having another 14, 17 win season next year?
Oh, I have no doubt that Cade is more than primed to make that type of jump. And, like before he started having, before he started to feel a little lingering issues with his knee at the end of the season, he was that guy from January 1st on. Like he was playing really good ball. He was shooting really well from beyond the arc. Once he really started to like get his rhythm and really realize that once he can get to his spots, there's really nobody that can stop him. He was starting to take it to that level. I really do think, having those proper types of teammates to actually be around him would allow him to thrive and be in a better position, not to carry as much of that load. I would just say, ultimately he can only do as much as he's given as far as the, overall win column goes. I think with Cade, it's about being in better shape so that, there is that kind of like just that more consistent availability, just, that adjustment of being in game shape and the overall conditioning to last an 82 game season. I think, just the turnover stuff is, I think, really the biggest, gap. Like once those things really slow down on the mental side of it, that's when Cade is going to like reach that level, in my opinion. And that's really just been from a lack of reps, just from a lack of opportunity, from being on the court, just because of those injuries. So I think having this season, yes, the first month and a half was really rough, especially with the losing streak, him just kind of, getting his feeding under him again, getting back into the rhythm of playing NBA basketball. But the second half of the season, Cade looked every bit the part. So I have no doubt that with a full healthy offseason, a better improved roster around him after, an aggressive offseason this year, I think we can expect to see Cade Cunningham, playing the best basketball of his career.
Yeah. Just get the man.
That's the thing I feel the most confident about.
Yeah. Just get the man please a co-star, or at least a number. If you believe he's a really good number 2, then get him a number 1. Find a way. I don't know. Trade the entire roster. Get him help, and I promise you'll see the results.
In my head, when you look at a lot of those guys that I named early in the start of their careers, year 1, 2, 3, that's when it's like, all right, they don't have the best teams around them. They're on a young team. They're still building. To me, it's as soon as you do get Cade, another big time player, and we thought maybe it was Jaden Ivey or Asar. We thought it was maybe some of these guys, and obviously it hasn't been. But once you do get him in the right position, it's like if you look at Oklahoma City, they ended up getting the right guys around SGA, and it might not have been the best players, but they just got the right fits. And we haven't even, Cade's putting up 23, 7, and 4, and he doesn't even have near as close to the right fit of players around him right now. It's like, all right, we have to do that. And that falls on the front office at the end of the day. That's what it comes down to. It was the same thing in Boston with Jason Tatum when they were getting Jalen Brown. Like, it's the same thing with all of these situations when you break it down. In New York with Jalen Brunson, like it's situational basketball to where Like, you have to have the right team on the floor, and it's obvious that any of these players outside of Cade aren't the right fit, and it's not going to be the right fit. You've tried it for 2 years. Sorry for the rant, boys.
No, you're good. Mike, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm just going to switch it up. Nothing Piston wise. Obviously, the NBA playoffs have been going on. I just want to know, Sean, who's your pick to finally win it all? And do you think the Celtics, this could finally be their year? Jason Tatum finally gets over that hump. They really don't have too much competition in the East. Obviously, the Knicks have been playing very well, but I think injuries are just eventually going to be the root of their fall. And then you still have Denver. I mean, they go down 2-0 early in that series with Minnesota, and then they're right back in it. Who's your pick to win it all?
If the Denver Nuggets team that we saw over the last 2 games in Minnesota continues to show up, they are going to be having another parade in Denver within the next month. They are, when healthy, when at their best, they are the best team in basketball. Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world. He has the best supporting cast around him. I think Aaron Gordon is the best role player in basketball right now. He's almost like a supercharged Draymond Green because he's more athletic than Draymond was at his peak. He's stronger than Draymond was at his peak. He even has similar, ability to play make as we've seen over the last couple of games, but also the ability to be in the lobber spot as well. I just think, they're just really dangerous. And, those first 2 games from Minnesota were extremely impressive, but ultimately it comes down to what the players outside of Anthony Edwards are doing. And as good as a guy like Karl Anthony Towns can be, he's just not that efficient. And he went 5 of 18 in the last game in Minnesota. So, I'm not super optimistic about his overall, play when it comes to crunch time and in the playoffs. Yeah. So I think they're the favorite out of the West. And as far as Boston goes, they have all of the talent, and on paper, they should be the favorite and would be the favorite. The thing that infuriates me whenever I watch the Celtics is that they are so good, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in particular are so talented, but for whatever reason, they just still haven't figured out how to play those guys together properly. Because when it comes down to crunch time basketball, it just turns into my turn, your turn. And Jason Tatum, I think the next leap for him to actually become the guy that he can be is learning those mental elements of the game and actually making the right basketball play. Because I swear, every single time when it gets to the final 2 minutes, he just crosses over for 19 seconds, takes a really crappy step back beyond the arc, and it just falls off the front of the rim. And that's every Jason Tatum ISO play. And then about every week and a half, the Celtics just, for whatever reason, just don't try. And then after the game, they're like, well, it is what it is. You can't win them all. So I just don't know why they haven't taken that next step yet, because they have so much experience in playing in playoff basketball. Like, Jason Tatum's been getting to the second and third round since his rookie season. So I expect them to take that leap within the next couple of years, or at least they have to if they want to win it all. But as of right now, until proven otherwise, I don't see them being able to do it. And I think Jokic is going to overwhelm whoever's going to be available for them, because if Kristaps Porzingis doesn't come back, that's ultimately going to be the real kiss of death on their title chances, because he's like the thing that makes Boston unfair. Like, they were already really good, and then you had a 7'1" guy who can shoot from beyond the arc, who can score in the post, who's also a really good rim protector. It just makes them downright unfair. But I still think Denver's the best team.
Yeah, and they're winning.
I mean, a lot of people did question that KP trade too, first when it happened, and he seems to be like the integral piece that when they're missing him, they just don't look right as a team. So I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I questioned it at first too, but when they got Drew Holiday in as well to replace Marcus Smart, with that, who is quite frankly just a better version of Marcus Smart, it just made them that much better. It was the icing on the cake.
Right.
Yeah, the Nuggets are just winning casually. Like, that's a scary thing. I mean, they won pretty decisively, but they can kind of coast through games and win. It's tough to be able to do that.
Well, they just have continuity from top down too. Like, Mike Malone's been coaching them for years. Those guys have been playing together for years. Like, this isn't their first playoff run together. They Like Mike Malone, after game 2, sat those guys down for 10 minutes and showed a 10-minute reel of every major pundit in the country talking about how they were cooked, how they weren't going to be able to overcome Minnesota, how Jokic was mid, how Jamal Murray was not going to be able to respond, and essentially just lit the fire right under their ass and knew exactly what to say. And then we saw the bludgeoning in Minnesota. Like everyone thought that Minnesota team, myself included, was on their way to go win the Larry O'Brien. But then Denver said, no, we won the finals for a reason. And it's funny, by the way, like whenever greats like are kind of like on their back feet, it's like people want to see people fail to be like, I told you they weren't that good. Those people are awful quiet now.
Yeah, no question about it. Thank you for joining the show, Sean. We appreciate you. You can check me, Sean, and Troy out every single Wednesday on From Half Court. Link is in the description. Sean, we'll talk to you very soon, my friend. Keep crushing it.
Boys, thanks for having me. We'll chat real soon.
There you go. Sean Murphy from Half Court, the man.
Don't tag me.
The legend. Yeah, don't Booner tag him.
Sean's a part of the Booner path. He has an open invite.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the janitor, Sean. So I think when you enter you're automatically ahead. You're above
by default.
I'll take my recruiting visit real soon.
All right,
let's go. Let's go.
Right. Michigan hat. God, you got him with the Michigan hat.
The Michigan hat gets
go blue, baby.
Let's
go.
5-star recruit.
You biased sons of bitches. All right, well, fellas. I did want to bring this up because it was kind of related to when we were talking about Alim McNeil, but PFF had an article. They went through and named every team's most underrated player. We can go through a couple teams if you'd like, but I do want to show who they had the Lions, or what underrated player they have for the Lions. And it kind of ties into our convo we had earlier, and it's Alim McNeil, of course, ironically enough, the guy we just talked about. And their description here says McNeil might have been one of the most improved players of the 2023 season. The former third-round pick went from earning a 69.8 PFF overall grade in his second season to an 86.9 mark in 2023, which ranked 7th among interior defenders. He was just one of 6 players at the position to earn 75 plus run defense and pass rush grades last season.
That's on. Guys, do you want to go, Jeff?
No, go. I'll go next.
DJ Reader's in the building. Alim McNeil takes another jump. I think it's a simple fact. I think no one's kind of realizing Alim McNeil around the league. I don't think people understand. If Alim McNeil didn't get hurt down the stretch last year, there's a chance he's at the Pro Bowl. He had 6.5 sacks going into what week was it? 14, 15, and he was playing at a very high level. And that was a Pro Bowl type of guy right there. This year, now you add DJ Reader. Hopefully, this other side of the offensive line or defensive line across from Hutch develops. Spoke on it a little 20 minutes ago. Terrell Williams. Alim McNeil is going to take another jump. He took one last year. Now he's going to take a bigger one. I already said it before. I think he gets 9+ sacks. I think he gets 9+ sacks this year. If he stays healthy, it's 9+ sacks, almost double digits.
I mean, I don't hate Alim at all with that pick, but I think it's still Alex Anzalone. I mean, DJ Reader is going to have a huge impact for him as well, because you think about offensive linemen with running backs as far as opening up lanes. We can say the same thing with DJ Reader automatically commanding a double team. That's going to help Alex Anzalone get more tackles for losses, make plays behind the backfield when they want to blitz them. So I think Anzalone is one of the players that around the NFL is just underrated in general, but for the Lions, defensively especially, he is by far the most underrated player on this team, in my opinion.
Okay, so I figured you two were going players defensively, and kind of Jeff too.
No, guy, speak your passion, Gentry.
It's Monty.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Really efficient player, averaging like almost 5 yards a carry. Is not as flashy as Gibbs, so the hype obviously gets drawn away. But 13 touchdowns, 1,000 yards. Monty has gone so under the radar. You had some clown on the Packers thing the other day say how he's not a good running back, blah, 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 or he's mid. Monty is our RB1 on most teams throughout the NFL. We are just drawn away because Gibbs is such a great player, rightfully so. But without Monty, that running back room is not the same. It would not be as easy as it is for Gibbs. The looks just wouldn't be the same. Monty is my underrated player for the Lions.
Yeah, go. What do you think, Boone?
Give yours real quick because I didn't realize. I apologize, boys. I didn't know we were giving out underrated players. I thought we were just breaking down Alim. That's on me.
Oh
Hand
shit!
Up. Hand
No,
up on me.
I think it's you guys both had great options. I don't think there's a bunch of underrated players. I think you can say that with the Lions in a way, I guess, because they don't have. I have to watch how I say this, but nationally, they don't have like these guys that are superstars. There's guys that we believe are in terms of talent, but in terms of like marketing, like it. So you could be like, well, this guy's underrated. Like Ahmed Ra, all these guys are underrated. I think all these players are really underrated. But Alex Anzalone, Dave Montgomery, those are two really good options. This is where I had to really think in terms of an underrated player. And honestly, I think this year, someone who is underrated, and that this is what going into this year, given who departed, I'm going to go with Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think he is underrated. I do. I think he is underrated. I think people look at DPJ as someone who will give you, $150, 200 yards. Like, I think he can not only give you what Reynolds gave you, but potentially I think he has higher upside than Reynolds. Like I said, with Baker in Cleveland, he had a better season than Reynolds has ever had. And I think people are so quick to forget about that. So I'm going to go this year. I think people are really sleeping on Donovan Peoples-Jones. And I think Brad Holmes knows that just as much as I do because he didn't address wide receiver.
But so what about Josh Reynolds?
The almighty Lord and Savior.
Oh my gosh, 600
no,
yards.
I'm going to go with Donovan Peoples-Jones.
What are we going to do? We lost him. We got to go get him. We got to get him back. Call him, Booner.
I think DPJ's man.
You boys don't regret this one. All right, I've got one now. I've got one. I'm going to stay on offense here. I'm not going to go running back. I'm not going to go receiver. I'm not going to go tight end, quarter. No. Put me in the trenches, boys. Put me in the trenches. Give me Graham Glasgow as the most underrated player out here. I think Graham Glasgow, think about this, fellas. He doesn't just play left, right guard. No, that man, if Frank Ragnow needs a week off, guess who goes in? Graham Glasgow. And he's not just going out there just, no, I'm just going to go out there and play some snaps. No, he goes out there and he's one of the highest. And I know PFF, it's a thing where we pick and choose. But when we're breaking down offensive linemen, typically that's what you want to look at. Graham Glasgow has been one of the highest graded guards in PFF week after week. As a guy that you brought in last year just to be a backup for you. And he's ended up turning around a 1-year deal here into a 3-year deal. And now he's a starting guard on your team. And he's going to be starting for the next couple of years. He is a piece that, because you have Penei Sewell, you have Frank Ragnow, you have Taylor Decker. No one sits there and thinks about Graham Glasgow, but Graham Glasgow goes out there week after week. He's not injury prone. He goes out there, he's consistent, stays healthy, and he goes out there and he's a legit dude that's not going to let you. He's not giving up sacks, and he's great in the run game. I think Graham Glasgow should be talked about a little bit more here, fellas. I'm going Graham. Shout out Graham.
I like that one, Boone.
Thank you, boys. I almost did Frank, but then I'm in my head, Frank's an all-pro. He was second team all-pro. Not really underrated.
Yeah, Graham, you notice, man, when Graham wasn't there, it's different. Life is different because of the
Colby Sorsdal.
Oh yeah. It's bad. Listen. If I'm being honest, fellas, I think I might have the most underrated pick out of all you guys.
I would agree. Iafrate.
I'm just talking that ish. I'm just.
I don't think so. I disagree.
We know.
Well, you're wrong.
No, I disagree because the underrated, like we've seen David Montgomery do it, and no one talks about him. He's put a bunch of numbers up. We've seen Ansel go out there and be a dog, and no one talks about him. Those are guys who are underrated, who put numbers up consistently year after year after year after year. Same with Graham Glasgow. DPJ, he's done it 1 year in his career. You're making me hate on DPJ, and that's not what I'm doing.
That, Boone.
But he's over there saying, let me talk my
narrative comes from the guy who wanted a receiver.
I love DPJ. I'm in on DPJ.
The Michigan man.
If we're ranking underrated players, DPJ's at the bottom because he needs to go out there and prove it before he can be underrated. You cannot You have to put the numbers up in this.
Hey,
No.
Booner, can I ask?
No,
you?
underrated is
say he can't be
underrated.
underrated. He's got to put numbers up.
Jeff. Underrated is putting the numbers up like D-Mont did, getting 1,000 yards and 12
He's put
touchdowns,
numbers
and no
up
one
in the
talked.
league.
One time.
He's been
you're
around
asking-
for
He ain't really quiet there after that.
If
Real quiet after
you're
that.
asking for what he's
You're funny.
Donovan Peoples-Jones, if this was a wide receiver 1 argument, I'd hear, but this is for the wide receiver 3 spot and replacing Josh Reynolds' production with J-Mo, and he's more than capable of it. And I do agree that people do kind of write off DPJ and are pounding the table to sign another wide receiver and bring him in, saying that they should have drafted a wide receiver. Might have been me. But I do think that Donovan Peoples-Jones is a good pick. There's no way.
I think it was a great pick, but he said, I think mine's the best.
When you talk about like
Booner can't.
Anzo and D-Mont, like those are like pretty like, well, yeah, you got to put
Why
those
am
guys
I-
in. Graham, there's been hype about. I think DPJ's a sneaky one.
Hey, Booner,
agree.
can I?
Why
Can
am
I
I
ask you
being
something?
framed as the bad guy here? Jeff just tried to go at all of us here and say
No,
his is
he's
the
not
best
going
pick.
at
I
him. He's
wasn't-
hurting
everybody
everybody.
I wasn't-
You came in.
He literally said, I'm talking my ish. Like, he
Yeah,
literally
I
said
agree.
that.
Yeah, I agree. Like I wouldn't
I
have
think
said
it's a
DP
good
Gray, and
pick.
I
It's
like
not
it.
the best pick, but it's a great pick. Good job, Jeff.
Hey, Booner, did me or Lucas steal your pick?
No, I didn't
Was it
have
Graham
one.
the whole time?
No, well, I didn't know we were picking one, and then once
Oh,
you guys
okay.
picked one, Graham was one of the first. Graham, I'm putting
Alright.
offensive line instantly.
I just didn't know.
You could honestly. Is there anybody we missed? You think anybody else? Like,
Chat, did
underrated?
we miss
Chat can
anyone?
chime in.
I mean, he hasn't played yet, but I think Zeitler is very underrated.
Just in general, like he's just not
Yeah.
talked about enough. Yeah, I mean, I could see that.
Kind of older, and then obviously offensive lineman.
Josh
so.
Pascal. No, just, I'm kidding.
Levi Onwuzurike.
Yeah, Levi Onwuzurike.
Jack
Iffy.
Fox.
Hey, a
Can I
little
drink
iffy.
Jack
Can Iffy
Fox?
be a little iffy?
Iffy, maybe. I mean, he could be. I don't hate it. But I think he got a
You
lot
know what,
of
Jeff?
Yeah.
You know what,
Like,
Jeff? Hey, you had the best pick, brother. You had the best. That was a great pick.
Oh,
dude.
Boone, don't be like that.
No, the people have spoken. The
Best
people in the
pick
chat have
guru of
spoken.
sports.
The people have spoken. Jeff has the best pick. The people spoke. Well, man of the people.
Is this?
Put it as a poll, Jeff. Who has?
No,
the
when
best
I
pick?
mean the people, I mean Adam has spoken. What Adam says goes.
Oh,
I
bottom
know what you
line.
meant,
that,
Booner. I know what you
Boone.
meant.
Come
There we
on.
go.
Bottom line, what Adam says about
Don't
Jeff,
do
that
that.
is it. And
We
now
need to have, like-
I will sit out of the argument.
Booner's
I'll-
getting
I'll
cranky.
see myself out.
Booner, take a sip of your Celsius. It's okay.
Don't do Boone.
There it is.
See that?
There it
Look at him.
is.
I know
Don't do
how
that.
things work
Do
around
that.
here. I know how things work.
Like the polls are rigged or something. What are you
Look
talking
at the
about?
polls. They're rigged.
Yeah, they're rigged. I promise
The
they're
list
rigged.
was rigged.
Dude, by the way, I saw the Adam talking about the video Eazy dropped. Let's play that. I do. I gotta play this. I gotta show
We might get copyrighted for it, to be honest.
why? Because of the music.
It's a Kendrick song.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the instrumental maybe.
Oh, he removed copyright off his music.
Oh,
for-
okay.
You know why? For people to react to it. Because he
Cringe.
knew people would be fucking
Cringe.
bumping that.
Not my vote.
Oh
Yeah,
my
let's play Eazy making a diss track and pulling up receipts for all the people that they were Eazy used terminology. I'll just tell you what he used. Basically, you guys know Kendrick Lamar made the diss track Meet the Grams. Eazy made Meet the Gobblers. Okay. And this is directed at specifically Mr. Neil Rule. Love Neil and Stick. We're both, hey, we love those guys. We love all these guys, but it's kind of funny. We're kind of pulling a J. Cole. We're staying out of it. But here's the video that Eazy dropped today. Of going at those two, and it's fucking hilarious. And this is people are getting called out, man. We got beef.
Dear Sam, I know you wish Jared Goff was your man. You parade around today like he's always been your QB. But it wasn't long ago you had won a CBBC. You slurping spilling juice and I'm steady delivering.
Oh no.
That's T. Push a T. Mr. Rule, you preach about what you really find valuable. You preach about who can take us to a Super Bowl. When I look through your history, you speak a different truth. Your words mince, but the tweet is legible. I don't know if you're no longer credible. Ooh.
This man has
I'm laughing while you capping. This ain't even worth a discussion. It's me versus a bunch of cousins. This ain't all I got. Don't make me press the button.
Why believe you? You never gave us nothing to believe in.
The winner.
It's easy. Speak easy, baby.
LeVar Ball at the end.
Eazy. He went straight at everybody, man. He went straight at everybody for claiming that they were all aboard all the entire time with Goff, and then there's maybe some tweets in there that would signify they're not really all with Goff. I don't know. It's interesting.
That was funny.
Eazy did a great job. He said he has a red button too, so he pushed to self-destruct. So I do have a red button for Eazy though too. I'm holding in the back end. We'll never do it, but I just want to know I have a red button.
Wow.
He knows.
Wait, hold on.
I sent it to him.
You got
it's just like when you're in these
we got red
it's
buttons
just
around
like
here?
it's just like the Drake and Kendrick stuff. It's hey, like when you're friends with everyone, and you're in the middle of this, you have to say, hey, keep me out of this. I have this. I'm gonna play my hand a little bit. I have this.
He just ate, but you just missed Booner saying he has the red button on Eazy.
What, bro?
Eazy knows. I sent it to him the other day. I just let him know,
but
hey,
here's
if
the
you guys
thing.
are doing this battle here, just leave Booner's name out of this. The Booner
Well,
path
here's
is
the thing.
Booner path. I have this on
Thanks, you
you.
gotta play.
Don't say anything.
To Ryan's point, like Eazy, at least he isn't really scared of anything because he's never been a golf like guy.
Fair.
It's tough. Like, how do you come at a guy who's never been for golf? He's just like,
There's some
how do you come
statements
at
that
the
are
guy?
made. There's some statements that are made that could make some people look really dumb. I'll just say that.
Why was he like gassing up golf or something?
No, never.
Oh, okay.
No, I love Eazy. I think that was great. I hope he drops the second one.
I think this is fucking creative. I think he. I don't even know what he was saying in the rap. Honestly, I couldn't even hear it. But hey, who cares? The receipts I was paying attention to be honest, it was impeccable.
Yeah, it's like on Apple Music. Like I need like the lyric button so I can like click the button.
Yeah,
and the lyrics go by.
Yeah, I need some. I do need the lyrics. I couldn't hear anything he was saying. But I could hear what Colin Cowherd was saying because you guys see what he said today.
Oh my!
He was spitting.
There was something he said.
Oh
that just
God!
this man said he.
No. Hold on, Lucas. I'm gonna let you cook here because he had a clip. I don't know. Can we play Colin Cowherd on here? I think we're no. It's probably TV. Basically, he said today that he would take Jared Goff over Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Joe Burrow.
The last name.
And his reason for Joe Burrow, I think, Jalen, Dak, Jordan, Brock, it's more like, it's pick 'em. So I don't mind that. But like Joe Burrow is where it triggered a lot of people nationally. They're like, what? Joe Burrow. His reasoning was he just hasn't stayed healthy.
I'm gonna let.
I'm
you
trying
go.
to like it literally.
Just-
I'm like breathing
he
heavy.
hasn't stayed
trying to
healthy.
calm down.
So just because he hasn't stayed healthy, Goff's a better
Do
quarterback.
we not
than him?
remember that Joe Burrow went to the Super Bowl with the worst offensive line in the NFL, and they had the number one pick? And do you know why that was? Because that year before, they had one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. They went and they got the left tackle. Was it Orlando Brown from the Chiefs? And he just completely fell on his face. They signed the center from the Bucks. He had to retire Ryan Jensen. They have had a just subpar offensive line for his whole career. And when you look at the defenses they're playing, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Baltimore, he's not going to stay healthy when you can't protect him. And when you compare it to Jared Goff, all due respect, behind one of the best offensive lines, there's injury going to be different. If you think that Jared Goff is a better quarterback than Joe Burrow, you are simply smoking crack. And I'm sorry, you can't be helped. You can't be helped. There's no way that you can tell me watching Jared Goff, he is a better quarterback than Joe Burrow. There's no fucking way. There's not a shot. Not a chance in hell. Not a chance.
I'm going to say this. Colin Cowherd was right about one thing. The list of quarterbacks that he named off, Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, I'm taking Jared Goff over all four of those guys any day. I think Jared Goff, you can argue, is the best quarterback in the NFC right now.
That's
now, and that's where, to me, I feel like we've had that argument a lot. We've had that conversation a lot. To hear a guy like Colin Cowherd come out and say, yeah, essentially he's the best quarterback in the NFC, I am all in on that. But number two, I'm with you, Klotzy, is the Joe Burrow thing. Joe Burrow, I've talked about this all the time when it comes to Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. There is elite. There's guys on this level, and then there's the next level. Jared Goff's here. Those guys are up there, and it's just kind of, to me, it's a different level to where, like, if Burrow was on this Lions team at the same price and everything, say you get him at the same price as Jared Goff, it's hard, and say he does stay healthy, he's probably staying more healthy because he's behind with the best offensive line in the NFL, and he's not getting sacked a million times. So, like, that all has to do with it. So I would go Joe Burrow as well, and that's nothing. You guys know me. I'm a Goff guy. I'm all in on Jared Goff. But the fact, though, I think what we need to take out of this is he has him over Dak, Brock, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love. All of those guys are over him. I will say this. It got in the video, he did take Stafford over Jared Goff. He did do that. So that was an interesting.
Yeah, the thing with Joe Burrow, he didn't say anything skill related. All he said was he's more healthy, which Joe played in 10 games last season, but played in 16 the year prior, 16 the year prior, and that's not including the postseason. And to your point, in 2021. So it's people act like he's missed most of every single season. Like I get it. If you want to take the health, I whatever. I disagree with it. But Lucas, you're being called out right now. He says you're an idiot, Lucas. You're blind. Jared Goff's numbers as a quarterback, someone who throws the ball, are not any better than Goff. If you want to talk about Burrow's occasional legs, sure.
Oh, well, Dak Prescott over Burrow then too. Fuck it. Put it over him. Fuck it. Purdy over Burrow too. Fuck it. Tua, put him over Burrow. Fuck it. But this is why I just want to hit my head into a wall when people just base their arguments majority off of stats. It's asinine. Like, if you watch the situations, if you watch the context of the game, it's so much different. It's so much different.
Yeah, no, go on, Mike, because
I was going to say, I agree with every quarterback on there aside from Joe Burrow, but, like, people downplay Jalen Hurts after, like, one bad stretch of the year to end the year. I think he's going to bounce back really well. People forget how high on him and Colin Cowherd probably the year that they did do well and he did do well was probably sucking him off too. So, like, I don't take anything like that he says, like, really seriously like that as far as the QBs go. Because, like, Jalen Hurts, like, people shit on Jalen Hurts like he's some shit quarterback or some mid-tier quarterback now, and I do not agree with that.
I do think there's a part of the thing with Jalen Hurts, though, where he's kind of a success within his own situation, if that makes sense. Like, he also, just like Jared Goff, he has probably the first or second best offensive line in football. He has 2 or 3 elite wide receivers. Now he's going to have Saquon Barkley. Sirianni, as much as some people hate him.
Every quarterback has weapons, though.
Yeah, but, like,
against him.
But Jalen Hurts has an offense that's 100 times better than some of these guys out there. Like, look at Justin Herbert's situation and look at Jalen Hurts. It's night and day difference. So Jalen Hurts, he should have had the year he had
on the 49ers in place of Brock Purdy.
Yeah, but Brock Purdy's had a good year as well last year. He was in the MVP conversation too. A lot of these quarterbacks, it's about what situation you're in. Jared Goff's in a great situation. Brock Purdy's in a great situation. Jalen Hurts is in a great situation. Like, those guys are in good situations where if you throw Jalen Hurts on the Chargers team right now with none of those weapons there anymore, he's not going to do what Justin Herbert's going to do this year. Like, he's night and day.
Jared Goff on the Chargers. Come on now.
And it's the same thing. He's probably not going to do what he's doing on the Lions. It's the same exact thing. Not saying it's different, but I think it depends on your situation. But, like, I don't know. I'm not going to say, like, I think Jalen Hurts he's a good football player. But he does, like, that situation he's in Philly the last 2 years, unbelievable situation.
Not last year.
Well, not last year, but that was because of the OC in that situation.
And he
still had the pieces. He was hurt, but he still had all of those pieces, and he just had a bad OC.
That was a much worse situation than people. Like, on the outside, everything looked great. But when you watch him, you're like, wow, this team is just a mess. Offensively, defensively, they had no secondary. They couldn't stop a nosebleed, and they even couldn't stop the run with that front seven. So who's that going to hurt and impact? A hurt quarterback even more so.
Exactly. But if Jalen Hurts is as elite as you want to put him over Jared Goff, which I disagree.
I
would still take Goff. Jalen Hurts, if Jalen Hurts was that good, then he would have made that situation better. he would have went out and he wouldn't have lost in week 1 of the playoffs.
I still think Goff is the number 1 quarterback in the NFC going into next year. I just said people downplay Hurts and talk about him like he's some mid quarterback, as if there wasn't a bigger situation behind the scenes. It wasn't just him playing quarterback. It was the Eagles team in general was a shit show, coaching staff. It goes way deeper than the guy playing injured as QB.
Well, look at this graphic that Adam put out on his Twitter, and I think this is puts a lot. It puts Jared Goff, what he's done, into some context, which is pretty impressive. Adam put this out. It's a graphic, and for people that are listening, it says "America runs on Goff." That's the title of the graphic. It says Jared Goff recently signed a 4-year, $212 million extension. Jared Goff, and this is since 2022. Qualified quarterbacks. Obviously, they played him on a certain amount of snaps, so on and so forth. He has 9,000 passing yards, over 9,000, second among those quarterbacks, 59 passing touchdowns, third amongst those quarterbacks. Actually, I think it's combined touchdowns, but whatever. I think it's like 1 rushing, probably like 2 rushing, whatever. 19 interceptions, 5th. 98.6 pass rating, 5th. Red zone stats. This is wild. Red zone. 40 TDs to 1 pick.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Oh, it is passing touchdowns. Okay, you got to put passing touchdowns, all right? Passing touchdowns, 59. That's where that. But
that's
40
nuts.
TDs to 1 pick. That is wild, by the way.
That's where Stafford absolutely struggled too. Stafford was great at getting down the field with drives, and then they would just stall out in the red zone. With Jared Goff, doesn't matter if it's through his arm or on the ground. They put points on the board when you need them to.
Dude, did you guys see the stat? I'm going to add a stat in here with this to kind of go along with this. Jared Goff in the NFL right now, 30 players, active players with 30,000. I think that may actually be all time with 30,000 passing yards. He has the least amount of he's the only one with under like 100 interceptions with 30,000 career passing yards. Like that's crazy. Like these stats, Jared Goff. If we're looking at numbers, boys, Klotz, I know you don't like sometimes. Let's watch the game here, brother. Look, the numbers are the numbers, though. This is unbelievable. This is a well-deserved contract. This man, and you probably could do these same numbers and next to it do wins over the last 2 years. Pretty sure he's 4th in wins out of all quarterbacks in the last 2 seasons as well.
Yeah. That's where me and Lucas, we agree with that. Numbers don't tell the full story. But I think they have to be factored in. They do.
They do.
Okay. All right. I think we were arguing over nothing, by the way, the other night, but that's a whole nother thing. I think we
look at
this. Stafford has a 54 to 1 TD interception ratio since he's been in LA in the red zone.
Yeah, well, I was talking about in Detroit.
Yeah, which you are. Yeah. Adam, go back. I wonder, could Adam do that? I wonder, could you do that for us, Adam? Look at what his TD interception ratio was in the red zone in Detroit.
Yeah,
I'm sure Adam.
Maybe it's not as bad as I thought. I would just remember it would just be like Kenny Galladay bomb, field goal.
Oh,
Marvin Jones bomb.
I'm just curious.
No points. Like there's so many
To
times.
be fair,
I'm not saying it was all of them. I'm saying Stafford was like a talented quarterback.
To be fair, Klotzy, you don't look at the stats. You watch the game, brother. I got you.
Adam says in 2017 it was 15 TDs to 0.
Maybe I'm just thinking it was just like way wrong. Maybe it wasn't turnovers, but I do remember, man, red zone Stafford just struggled.
13 to 3.
Because it could have even been fumbles too, which Goff has struggled with as well.
Yeah. I don't care what anybody says, man. All the people can talk on the internet. Stafford, oh God, which is very true. Goff did what Stafford could not do, but I will say Goff and the Detroit Lions did what Stafford could not do. Stafford and the Lions could not do. I hate doing that 1-to-1 thing. It's not fair.
I just think Jared Goff win a Super Bowl and then the trade's successful both ways. We're good.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at with it. It's just go win a Super Bowl. You have 4 years to do it. Just sign that. You have 4 years. Go win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I just don't like like I say on the show all the time. It's like I'm about to get it like football is a team game until it isn't. It's always a team game until it fits someone's narrative, and then we start going, well, Goff or Stafford and all this stuff and comparing.
It's okay to say Stafford's better than Goff.
He's more talented. Doesn't mean Goff's not good. You know, it's just It is what it is. And Adam is right about that trade. It might be the most balanced trade. Obviously the Super Bowl, I would still give it to the Rams because like that's what every team wants. But like the Lions got a haul for it too, man.
And the depth that the Lions were at during that trade compared to where they are now. I mean, obviously it's not a Super Bowl. The Rams were in playoffs, like they were contenders years prior to that with Jared Goff. Like they didn't need to take that many steps. The steps taken from Detroit and Brad Holmes following that trade are insane.
You just instantly like once Jared Goff
wins
it.
By Pennywise, by the way. Sorry to interrupt you.
It's
a great point. It's a great
Stafford
point.
won the Super Bowl and Goff couldn't. So like
that's
point. Why if Goff does win the Super Bowl here, or when he does, I'll say that when he does, that instantly it becomes the most even trade probably of all time in any sport, professional sport ever. Like as soon as that happens, you go, yep, this was the most even trade of all time.
Hey, Josh Pascal's in that trade.
Jahmyr Gibbs, I believe, is in that trade. Jahmyr Gibbs. There's a lot of players in that. There's a lot of players.
Let's see. Stephen David mailbag. Is it possible the Lions have a good QB for the last 15 years that the Lions have had? Yeah, it is. I think it is possible. I think that has been the case. They've had a thing. That doesn't happen, by the way, especially with the Lions pre-Stafford.
Yeah.
Oh my
Charlie Batch days.
And they went from Stafford to Goff. It's pretty good.
Klotzy, I know you're not, this is a past Klotzy thing. I know you've never been a big Stafford guy. I just think like if Stafford was on the way Brad Holmes has built the team in the Dan Campbell culture, again, like I think Stafford wins compared to what he did before. Like he's actually winning playoff games.
Stafford was just like he's not, and it wasn't just his fault, but he's not winning the team anything. Like they went all in on Stafford, and it's just like I'm sorry with the state of the team, you're not winning one. Like you're gonna have to rebuild eventually. Stop putting it off.
But
like,
to your point,
Stafford again, I was like, this
team's
not going to go anywhere.
But Klotz, to your point, it was never like you can't hate Stafford for that. It was never Stafford's fault.
No,
it was always the front office. It was always the coaches. Like Adam had this when Adam did his show and Stafford won the Super Bowl. He did the celebration because it was like, hey, we're trying to show you this was never Stafford's problem. This was always the front. This was always the Lions. This was the Lions' fault that he couldn't win it. And that was to where I kind of agreed to that, where it's Stafford went right away and in year one, he was gone. He won a Super Bowl. And that's why, to me, you guys can disagree or agree with me or not. The Booner path on my end, it's like, again, when Stafford comes back to Detroit this year, hey, we're moving on from that. We can give him his video, let him do that because it was never his fault. Like, yeah, he might have thrown interceptions and did that. It's so like the organization was in such a bad spot. It was in such a bad spot. No, and if you put Matthew Stafford in Detroit with Sheila Hamp and Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, you win Super Bowls. That's a fact with Penei Sewell and all these. That's just a fact. Yeah. So that's where, to me, when like people are like, oh, we hate Stafford. Like, no, dude, Stafford was in such a bad position. I'm going to say wasted his career, but just he was in like so long, and he's such a talented quarterback, one of the best to ever do it, one of the best arms of all time in the NFL. And we had him in Detroit for 12 years, and we got nothing out of it.
Yeah.
Detroit and the organization let that man down. So now that things have changed and the Lions are under a new regime, dude, celebrate him when he comes in this year. If people are still going to sit there and hate on him, that's on you. Like, to me, the number 9 is going to get retired. You're going to sit there and celebrate him when his career is over. I don't care. That's where I'm at with it. And I'll stand on that hill till the day I die. I will die on that hill with anyone. And if Adams, you want to be side by side with me, we'll stand there and die on that hill together.
Yeah, wait, we're all with you. I think the only person, Lucas, have you came around to Stafford though?
I support him. Yeah. I just like the Stafford just like acting like he was going to save the Lions. It's just those were the fans that were driving me crazy.
Yeah, because I know Gentry, we've always been, and I know Booner because me and Gentry talked about this a while ago, kind of doing the whole like what we felt about Stafford. I know how Booner feels, and obviously you know how Adam feels. Me and Adam had that celebration where he brought in the dancers, and I just tried to blend in on our show live. That was after Stafford won the Super Bowl. Yeah, that happened. So I don't think no one's saying he's absolved from any blame, but like you can't deny that majority of the blame was on the organization. Like you saw that play out, and they're very different now. And it's a brand new Lions, and with that, it's brand new crunch time because we are here to stay. And we appreciate you guys so
Thought
much.
we were adding a new member for a second. You said brand new Crunch Time. I was like, oh, who's joining?
This is a brand new Crunch Time. We're about to hit 1 million channel views.
Let's go,
So,
fellas. That's crazy.
I think we're just there. I think tomorrow it'll be updated. So without you guys, this would not be possible. We appreciate the hell out of every single one of you for tuning in. And man, I'm excited. We're all excited for what's to come. I can't wait for the season to get here, the watch parties, what we have planned. Jeez, it's going to be a lot of fun. So again, we appreciate the support, all the members, the people that tune in, the super chats, everything. Thank you guys so much. I can't wait to get the merch out so we can start getting some merchandise to you guys, man. That's
like the stream, subscribe.
And we'll be at the Panthers game this Saturday. So I'm going to keep saying it because I can't wait for it. Until tomorrow, have a blessed night, and we'll catch you. Deuces.
Peace. Love you guys.